It's really
Cook the man some fucking breakfast soup, bitch!
So everybody, just follow me, 'cause we need a little controversy, 'cause it feels so empty without breakfast soup. And I said, what about breakfast soup?
I need to tell you something.
Breakfast soup.
Gotta be fresh, gotta go downstairs, gotta have my bowl, gotta have
Breakfast soup. Breakfast soup. Breakfast soup. Breakfast soup.
Going on, everybody? It is Sunday, Bloody Sunday, April 26th, 2020. We are back once again. I don't know, this is like episode 106, something like that, of Breakfast Soup. I am Don Tony, as always, and join along with me is, as always,
Anthony Missionary Thomas. What's going on, DC?
No, not much. What's up, everybody? Tuning in live. Replay, much love as always. I want to thank everybody for your support on Patreon. Truly the lifeblood of everything that is going on right now. And we are up here once again, giving you a solid show. Quite a few questions from our VIPers. I think we'll have probably a debate or two. And I'm not going to lie to you, Mish, I have not eaten dinner yet. So during the show, I'm going to be sneaking in some of these Polynesian nuts, and I'm going to sneak in some moon cheese, keto lovers, and if I'm still hungry, I'll have some mini snickerdoodle cookies. So, I won't be crunching. Nobody will hear anything, but if you see me chewing a little bit during the show, you might see me just snacking. Oh, and the most important thing, this is, I got to drink this whole thing before the night is over. That's how far behind I am with my water today. So it's a gallon of Poland Spring water, but what I did was I put some Crystal Light green tea. Yeah, so it's got a little green tea mix in it. So my fiance thought that I peed in this all night long. She saw this next to my desk. She's like, what is that? I said, what do you mean? She's like, did you piss in that? I'm like, I don't use a... She thought I used a bedpan. So... And I didn't even put like the regular amount of mix because I think you use one packet per 16 ounces, which would have been like 8 of them. So I only put, I think, 4 in here. So plus I don't want to have too much caffeine. Otherwise I'll be up all night long. So how's this COVID treating you? Now we're like 6 weeks in.
Yeah, no, we're officially 6 weeks in.
Yeah.
43 days since the actual quarantine started. And, it's starting to get to me a little bit. Man.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, it's supposed to. That's the thing is that I don't. I sit there and I'm watching all these people freaking out online saying, "Give us our freedom," because COVID is turning us into a communist state, and I'm like, you fucking morons! Nobody's enjoying this. This isn't supposed to be happy fun time.
right.
Nobody wants to be out of work. Nobody wants to not be able to go places. Nobody wants to be afraid of being within 6 feet of their fucking neighbor, So it's like I just see reactions like that and I kind of roll my eyes. It's like, you guys are being fucking ridiculous thinking that the government is out to get you. It's a worldwide pandemic and everybody is feeling the crush,
Well, let me ask you this. 6 weeks ago, we weren't wearing masks. We even had the Surgeon General tell us that wearing a mask was not going to help anything. That black guy, the Surgeon General, very nice guy.
They said certain masks. They said the N95 mask was the specific one.
Yeah, but
KN95 version.
I have a video clip where he said that there's no evidence right now that wearing masks helps this at all. And you know me, look, I'm a supporter of Trump and his, his cabinet.
Right.
So for me to say this, you know what I mean? I'll give you an example. Much love to Shaheen. Much love to Shaheen. But I don't follow Trump on Twitter anymore. I don't follow anybody in his cabinet anymore. I'm done with politics and this stuff because it's a fight that you can't win. At the same time, though, there are unforced errors by Trump. The whole Clorox thing is just, he was thinking out loud. He should shut his mouth. That's no excuse for it. I understood what he meant because I talked about it Friday. There's studies going back to the 90s with Demerol and others that if you inject alcohol into the lungs, it actually can do certain things. But the minute he put the insecticide, I mean, you just have, tens of millions of people that are just drooling, waiting for this material. But, I don't want to have to be the one to always clear it up. And I'll give you an example. Shaheen's got his shirt store now. And Trump the other day was talking about how the post office is losing tens of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. And he talked about how Amazon and all these companies walk all over the post office. And he said that unless Amazon and these companies raise their price, or the post office raises their price 4 times for Amazon and them, he ain't signing no assistance for the post office. So I saw Shaheen and others really ripping into the president saying, this motherfucker is going to make the prices go up 4 times. And this is the thing. I'm not trying to fight with anybody. And again, I criticize the president wherever due. But he specifically at the end of that said, not consumers, just Amazon and these big companies that are taking advantage of the post office. He went out of his way to say not consumers, but everybody left those 2 words out. And everybody thinks that he says if the post office don't quadruple their prices for everybody, he's not signing nothing. And that's the things that I'm like, you know what? I'm just done with politics online. I stay away from it. But let me ask you this. 6 weeks ago, we weren't wearing masks. 6 weeks ago, we weren't social distancing. 6 weeks ago, we really didn't think much about hand sanitizers.
We absolutely were social distancing because 6 weeks ago is right at the same time that people are already starting to be complete nutsoids and clearing out all the Purell and clearing out all the toilet paper.
Right.
You're right. We weren't mandated to wear these things, I don't believe, 6 months ago.
Right.
Or 6 weeks ago.
Right.
But I think the craze had already started to happen.
Right. But, well, you know what? There's always people that are paranoid. Me, I bought crazy amounts of toilet paper early on. I bought, certain things. I mean, some of our patrons, Mike and others, showed them how to go on Amazon, order Clorox. One little thing of Clorox hand sanitizer, they were selling on eBay for $150 a bottle.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's disgusting, man. People were gouging.
Oh,
Price
yeah.
gouging.
They're still gouging.
Right.
But this is...
but it's nowhere near as bad. I mean, when this happened probably last month or whatever, you could go on, and it wasn't just price gouging. There was a lot of fake stores too. Like Amazon had a lot of brand new sellers that as soon as you purchased or as soon as a bunch of people purchased, they would close the store down and just keep the money.
Right. But here's the thing, and Rob Taker, if Amazon quadruples their prices, I don't buy from Amazon no more. There's so many other places you could buy from. And trust me, like Walmart and others are trying to compete with Amazon. But here's where I'm getting with this. There's always people who are frantic. See, sure. I saw what you wrote earlier about Ronda Rousey. And I agree with you. She was showing off her,
Did you see that video?
What? Oh, yeah.
Did you see that video?
Yeah, the freezer with the tons of meat. Yeah.
And then all the guns and the crossbows and the Tesla, the water. And it's like, dude, we get it. And she's like, oh, well, this is just things that I have. And it's
right.
like, yeah.
So, but you see, she is over-prepared. Back in the 50s, everybody had these basement bunkers that had like water and canned food and stuff that would last people for years because they were afraid of a nuclear war or whatever it was in the 50s. So people have always, a lot of people have always over-prepared for the worst. even on my boat. When I have my boat, I sold it 2 years ago. When I have my boat, and I do have some video somewhere of it, like in the cabin area. I opened it up and there was tons of dry, dehydrated food, bottled water, and this and that. And, you know, like my friends would go on the boat once in a while and they would be like, why do you have all this stuff? I'm like, in case I break down. They're like,
A boat to acres of land.
no, I know. I'm not comparing it with Rhonda, but my point is this. 6 weeks ago, some people that were a little over, you know, nervous about this, and rightfully so, wore the masks, went out and bought things. But now, 6 weeks later, everybody understands you need to do these things. So 6 weeks ago, I felt weird. I felt out of place putting on a mask. When I went to the store 6 weeks ago, I felt like an outcast. Now it's an everyday thing for me. So my point is, 6 weeks later, and we understand how, you know, epic this virus is, and we're all now wearing masks, and we're social distancing, and we're showing respect for others. When I'm in a store, if I feel I'm too close to someone, I'll move back a little bit out of respect for them. And if people want to go back to work 6 weeks later, and they could set up their business where they do keep their distance from people, that they do take precautions, they wear the masks, they have cans of Lysol that, God forbid, somebody sneezes, you're immediately spraying that area. Why is that such a bad thing?
No, I'm not necessarily against that. I think that that's probably one of the best things that came from the COVID virus is that we have. What was the joke? I think it was one of my neighbors made the joke. They're like, you know, everybody's going to get fat over the next few months, but we're going to have the cleanest houses that we've ever had. You know,
My house ain't clean. My house ain't clean.
But there's a lot of people that have gone through extenuating circumstances in order to make sure that they're not just safe, but they're also clean. And I think that that's a big change in the way that we look at not just our personal hygiene, but the hygiene of those around us. You know, wearing the masks, having the disinfectant, you know, making sure we have the proper enough facility materials, you know, shit tickets, as I like to call them. It's a big deal. It's a big deal that we took for granted. And now, you know, with some of this stuff, you know, and even water, like for a while there, we couldn't get water. It was only for about 2 or 3 weeks that you couldn't readily find water. But now it's to the point where it's like there are certain things that we might learn from this virus and keep on hand, you know, and Purell will be one of them and everything else like that. But it's also shown the failure of the government. It's also shown the failure of the companies because companies, you know, like 3M completely let us down. And apparently a lot of the stuff that our country could have used in order to stay healthy is China and other countries.
Yeah. You want to know what's disgusting? And it just boggles my mind that this hasn't been like the biggest issue that people have been talking about as far as regular people.
Right.
You go on Amazon, all right? I don't want to get into the whole thing, but back in January, February, before we even had this problem in the United States, apparently China was buying up crazy amounts of masks. And when we started having this, you know, this to spread, I know you bought a ton of masks. And by the way, I know you probably don't want me to blow up your spot, but I mentioned it on Friday too on the Don Tony show that, you know, you've gone out of your way to send masks to certain people, to send, you know, very.
Well, let's not blow it up, dude. I think everybody should be doing that. If you get a surplus or you have the ability to get a surplus and people need stuff, send it.
Yeah. Well,
that's all. You know, you don't have to wheel and deal. I mean, especially if it's your friends and family.
Yeah.
Come on. Just.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been doing with my mom. I've been ordering, like, if I get, like, if an auction pops up for wet ones or, you know, some sanitizer somewhere or Lysol, I will buy 2, one for me and one for her, and I just have it shipped to her house. And, like, 3 times over the last 2 weeks, she's like, "Did you order this? I got this box in the mail with all these masks." I'm like, "Yeah, it was me." But here's the thing. And I invite anybody out there, go on Amazon tonight. It'll make you sick. It'll make you sick. You go on Amazon and you look up those blue masks, those disposable masks, and they're
Right,
like
right.
50 for $50.
Oh
Those
yeah.
used to be 50 for maybe $5.
Oh, easy.
And now they're all 40 to $50, maybe 30.
Twofold- That's a twofold problem because I understand. Okay,
But here,
so
let me
here's
just say one last thing about that.
okay, okay.
99% of the stores that are selling it on Amazon, if you go look at the seller, 99% of them are located in China. Not only that, about half of the
Right.
stores I've come across are brand new stores. And the worst part about it is about 6 weeks ago, I bought 5 reusable masks where you could wash. I still haven't gotten them. Now it says anticipated delivery date June, and it's a
Right.
fucking vendor in China.
Well,
And
here's the thing. I
yeah,
actually got screwed in that exact same thing. I bought a roll of elastic, like elastic cord, like one of those spools. It was a spool of cord, and you couldn't find it anywhere around here. And I found somebody that's delivering it, supposedly, like I think it was out of Jersey. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And so I placed the order, and then I found out it was a Chinese seller that's using an address from Jersey in order to sell the stuff.
and shipping it
And
to
it's
China.
now it's supposedly in China. Like I have a tracking number for some
Yeah.
Chinese delivery,
Yeah.
and I ordered this back at the beginning of, well, actually probably the end of March. You know,
I
and it's still not here yet, and I don't know the timing for it. Well, the reason is because one of my neighbors actually makes masks, and so I was like, oh, here, I'll just get you some elastic cord, you can make masks. She's an amazing person, it's very nice. And it's like you have to like wonder why, first off, who you're ordering from, because like I said, they're using like stateside addresses in order to use, like through Etsy, through eBay, through other
yeah,
places, Amazon. Yeah.
yeah. And
The other thing
it's
too is shortages. The
I'm
shortages are stateside or
yeah,
state specific.
yeah. But
Because,
I'll say this.
oh, okay,
I
go ahead.
I'm not into conspiracy theories. I don't think 9/11 was an inside job or anything like that. I
Right.
really rarely ever get into conspiracy theories, but there's one thing that just keeps creeping up into my head, that China bought crazy amounts of masks before this became an epidemic here. But meanwhile, they make their own masks. You look at videos in China a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, tons of people in China are already wearing masks. It's just an everyday part of life over there. And now they're saying that in 2 weeks that meat prices they're fearing are going to skyrocket because apparently China is buying crazy amounts of meat as well. And what I'm starting to just creep into my head as far as conspiracy theory is that when Trump started taxing China billions and billions of dollars, making all of these tariffs, it's a communist country. That's what people seem to forget about. It's a communist country. It would not surprise me that maybe not the leader of China, maybe he wasn't aware of it, but I think there's always that possibility that someone in China, high up in the government, because the U.S. was finally sticking it to China, they had their worst economy in like 50 years last year. The worst economy, and their economy has never been as superior as the United States. And you hear about these labs, and they're always trying to be on the level of the United States. It would not surprise me if someone intentionally released that fucking virus in Wuhan. Then they banned the travel from Wuhan into different parts of China, but they let those people travel across Europe and the United States. But they banned them from traveling within China at that time. Would not surprise me is if they let this virus loose, so they then could sell a box of masks that usually is $5 for $50 to resell meat and everything else a lot more expensive. And China is making a killing right now in the United States.
You're kind of defeating your own point because you're saying that this is a communist-based idea or a conspiracy. Defeats the idea of what communism is. Communism is about the people. Communism is about strength from the people. You're not going to drop a virus on the very thing that makes you communist. So that's not it. I do agree with you on the sense that I don't believe it's the magic bat theory. I think the magic bat theory is old American racism come to light once again, because that's how we deal with things in this country. But it didn't come from just some random person eating a bat on video, and now all of a sudden everybody has the virus. That's not how it works. Uh, Chinese people have eaten bat for many, many years, for centuries even. So has everybody or not everybody, but so has a lot of South America, Brazil. There are a lot of people down there that eat bats. Matter of fact, there's a thing called like the fox bat. Me and Joey were even talking about this a couple days ago. And these bats are 50 plus pounds, DT. Like, they're meals, man. These bats are like chickens here, you know?
Well, you know
And
what?
so
No, go ahead. Continue.
And so the whole idea of China dropping the virus on themselves in order to tank the market and take from us in order to put us at a disadvantage while they resell our stuff back to us, it seems a little far fetched to me. I think the reality is you have to really think about how big their population is, even in comparison to the United States. And what happened is even though China has the capability and then some to create all of these masks, you're now also dealing with that increase of a population that needed answers, that needed medical tools, that needed masks, that needed Purell now. So that's why America's markets got tanked. It wasn't because it was some conspiracy. It was because of the need, the cause and effect. The cause was that now everybody's got this virus around there. They live in completely different conditions than we do. Now it's spreading over there, and they had insane numbers at the very beginning of this, to the point where it caused everybody to have global panic based upon what was happening in China alone. So when they were just pulling from us masks, they weren't just pulling from the United States. They were pulling from everywhere that sold masks, everywhere that sold Purells, everywhere that sold any of the medical, the N95, the KN95s, whatever they could get. Now, we're the last ones. You have to remember, we're the last ones to really get hit. All these other countries, all these other continents have all been hit before us. We are literally the last ones on the dock. And now, because of that, our greed and our lack of foresight has put our entire country at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
We wanted to sell all of those masks a month before it hit us because we're like, it won't hit America. And it sure the fuck did.
I think Trump has to lower taxes across the United States so we could start making our own crazy amounts of masks. And not just masks, but everything. Stop depending on China for everything. My God, half of the things I have in this room probably have China on it, or Japan. China or Japan.
Sure.
Almost everything.
There was actually a show on PBS. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but it was like some BBC, PBS show or whatever. It was overseas. I believe in England or whatever. But what they did was they forced these people to live without international goods. So nothing from the U.S., nothing from Japan, nothing from China. And it was kind of amazing how bare bones their lives were. And it really came down to bare bones necessities and stuff like that. Right, exactly.
Motherfucker, I just bought this last week. Made in China.
But here's the thing, though, too, is that, the one thing I will say positive about Trump with China was that he's opened up new doors to them that we've never had before, financially.
Right.
I mean, the fact that we're going to be the country that supplies them cars, that's a big boost. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Like, it's in writing, but obviously with the situation the way it is, we're not pumping them out yet. But that's a major, major increase to our market. The fact that they're taking, a third of all of our crops and paying our farmers top dollar for a third of all of our crops. These are major, major financial wins for the country. We have to get through COVID first.
Right. Aaron had sent question in and asked, why do Kunti, well, he calls them Kunti, Japanese fishermen feel the need to view every single animal that lives in the ocean as food to feed people. They kill dolphins, sharks, crabs, lobsters, octopuses, whales, turtles, shrimps, squids, sea cucumbers, stingrays, eels, goes on and on and on. Why do they do that? And I guess, just to answer his question now, and, I'm curious what your answer is. I will not watch video of these wet markets. I know what they do now, and I understand, to the extent of it. My interpretation of it is the reason why China, I think, eats everything is because of the poverty level. And if you don't have that much as far as income and you're hungry, it's like if there's a, like there's a reason why we have fish in the sea. Like we all realized hundreds of years ago, fish is there for us to eat. And
Right.
and I think when it comes to China, that in their mind, the reason why a non-human was created was for food, no matter what it is. I would be more curious is to find out what animals China did not eat. And I think that's their mindset, that if it's not human, it was created for us to eat. That's my thinking, number one. The second thing is that with these wet markets, I think the reason why these wet markets exist is because some people, it's like if you okay, here's a good one. All right, my father every year plants tomatoes, plants like zucchini, squash, different things, and soon as he picks it, he washes it and eats it right away. Because you can't get it any fresher than that. It's like straight from the ground into the stomach. And I think when it comes to the wet markets, they believe also that you can't get any fresher than that. You know what I mean? There's no preservatives, there's no nothing, and I think that's why they exist. But I tell you, it's disturbing to hear what is sold over there. I can't. I would never ever watch the videos.
It doesn't bother me at all. And Joe and I were talking about this before. It's amazing how this country eats so many pigs, but we value dogs and we value cats when it's been proven that pigs are far more intelligent animals. So, and obviously, if you go over into different countries, they won't eat cows. You go to different countries, they won't eat pig. You go to different countries, that they won't even touch shellfish. It's a food culture based upon climate and area and what can be grown in necessity. I think it's a great example that you brought up, your dad growing tomatoes. There's certain parts of the world where you can't grow tomatoes, so they make use of other means of food in order to survive.
Right.
It's it's a necessity born from years and years of evolution. As cave people, and we were making the joke, about this, but somebody didn't see a bat and immediately thought, "Oh, that's delicious." They ate the bat because they were fucking hungry.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the same thing with all of the dolphins and everything else like that. They didn't just magically think, "Oh, dolphin is delicious." No, somebody ate a dolphin because they were hungry,
Right.
and it became part of their culture as
Right.
time and time
Yeah.
went on. That's why Japan is very heavy when it comes to the seafood culture. But and while they do have Kobe beef and stuff like that, which is this tremendous steak and everything else, the reality is you don't think of Japan when you think of great hamburgers. You don't think of Japan when you think of bacon. And there's a reason for that, because that's not a major part of their culture. But obviously, different kinds of seafood, octopus, squid, everything sea based is a major part of their culture, because that's what they did in order to survive. And I think that's not just Japan; that's all over the world, and that's different types of food too. There was a oh my gosh, I wish I could remember the cook, but there was a cook that did the evolution of food. I'm not sure if it's Yen can cook. I don't know if you know Yen. Yen, he's a Chinese chef and stuff like
Mm.
that. He's very
Yeah, I've heard of
renowned,
him.
but I think there was like a special that he did or some kind of a documentary where he was talking about the evolution of food. And that's kind of where I only know this from. And that's why his show is basically him going to all these different countries and all these different cultures, and he talks to these people and he learns about, well, why is this your town's dish?
Right.
You know, and then they would give him a background on it. And sometimes it was like simple stories, like this is just what we had available. And sometimes it was based on, well, during the war, this is all the food that was around, and this is how we survived during the war. And it's like, it was this amazing little documentary. And he still continued to do the show for years afterward. But food, and while the wet market can be disgusting to us, the reason it is because that's not what we see. But if somebody else looked at what we do to cows, somebody else looked at what we do to pigs, somebody looked at what we do to chickens, that's disgusting to them.
Yeah. You want to know something? No joke. I mean, I could open up my freezer now, but I'm not. But I mentioned this Friday. I don't even know how I got on the topic, but, you know, the diet that I'm on, you know, it gets very boring. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my dinner was cheese and
You're
nuts.
eating some crazy stuff, man, because I'll be honest, from Parma Crips to moon cheese. I mean, come on,
I have the number one thing I have in my house is cheese. I have Swiss, Munster, mozzarella, cheddar, feta, Greek, ricotta. That is Greek.
sausage or like
I have some summer sausage, but what I have done is every, you know, this I can't control, but every bit of cheese that I buy, every egg that I buy, every piece of meat that I buy, I will only buy free range eggs. I will only buy grass-fed and finished beef. And free range, I brought up the company Friday, Vital Farms, if anybody wants to check it out. Vital Farms, the eggs are about $1 more a dozen, but when I figure it out, it's only about a dime an egg. But they have video of their farms, and the hens are allowed to just run around, and some people, they bring their kids and they feed them and they just lay the eggs, and that's how so they're not under any pressure. You know, everybody thinks that, you know, the cage free is, they're cage free. No, yeah, they're not in cages. But, you know, I saw the video once where it was like a warehouse, and it looked like a club. It looked like going to a club in the 90s. Like you couldn't even move around. I mean, there was just pussy everywhere. But, you know, that's what it was like with the chicken. So, you know, that's all I buy. And even with that, like, the thought in my mind is, like you said, what they do, you know, with cows and pigs and everything. But, you know, I realize that, you know, I
like
can't.
Foie gras.
Yeah.
Foie gras is duck liver.
Yeah.
And it is delicacy in even in, like, you know, California and France and some of the other Scandinavian countries. It's like this big thing, foie gras. And what they do though is they force feed these ducks to the point where they explode and then they stop. And they have this food specific that just enlarges their liver to the point where their liver is almost like popping out of the side of their body. But it's this crazy expensive food that, you know, it's a rich person's food.
Yeah.
You know, foie gras is probably top of the line. But if you actually look at how it's done, not all, some of them do it naturally, but most don't. And the most common way to do it is force feeding these ducks until they're practically exploding, and then they sell it off for a crazy price.
Yeah, I've never eaten duck. The closest I have a jar of duck fat inside. It's just the fat, you know, that you use for frying. But even with that, I kind of feel weird about it. I'm like, oh shit, it really is fat from a duck. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, duck fries are amazing. I mean, I'll be honest, it's delicious. And that's the thing too, is I don't want it to seem like I'm heartless about, you know, our food chain and stuff like that. You know, in a perfect world, there would be a more humane way to do some of these things without, you know, just putting animals through unnecessary amounts of torture. You know, there's something to be said about, you know, tainting the meat, because isn't that the whole reason that the Kobe beef is so amazing, that these cows, they have music on and they get like back rub and everything else like that, because they're keeping the meat tender and they're keeping the meat happy until the time it comes to actually kill the animal.
Yeah.
But at that point, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's either you go vegan and you just never hurt another animal again,
Yeah.
or you at least accept what it is that you're eating.
I
You
have
know?
to accept some of it. I mean, like I said, I have to accept it. It's disturbing to me. But my thinking is, well, at least if I buy free range, at least if I buy grass fed and finished, if I at least buy certain brands that, the process of beginning to end for the animal and they don't torture or anything like that, I have that little consolation that, at least I know that, I'm not buying from, I don't, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to eat and you can't just live on cheese and fruit and
Oh,
vegetables.
well, you can actually. That's how those vegans are fighting for that. I'm just not a
Yeah,
fan. I'm a meat eater through and through. I've always appreciated meat. Meat is a part of my culture. Meat is a part of my family that was raised that way, and some of the best meals that I think of immediately all have meat in them,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm going to get rid of. And it's not because I choose to be some ignorant asshole about it. Like, I'm sure
No,
that there
not
are
at
people
all.
who have their minds about it. But, at the end of the day, this is part of who I am. Meat is a part of me. Eating seafood, eating octopus, eating squid, eating sushi, eating Maxwell Street Polishes and Chicago deep dish. It's all a part of who I was, food cuisine wise, as a person over the years. Because you know what? That's the most amazing thing about food in general to me, um, is how it can trigger a feeling and a memory at the same time. You
Absolutely.
go back, I mean, from something as stupid as a piece of candy that you used to eat as a kid, when you're 40 years old, you eat
Rock
it
candy.
again. All of a sudden, right. And you immediately go back to those times when you were eating rock candy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, food is more than just a necessary diet. There's moments, there's feelings, there's memories attached to that food. If you hate food, you're not going to, for the most part, if you hate something when you were growing up, you're probably not going to like it too much when you get older.
The funny thing is, no bullshit. Whenever I make eggs, to this day, to this day, to this day, I
Yeah.
think of my grandmother. Because when I told the stories how I became a wrestling fan and she used to babysit me when I was very young,
Yeah.
and the one thing that I always remembered from my grandmother was Saturday morning, her making eggs, and she would put milk in the eggs or heavy cream, just a little bit. But the way she made the eggs were just so like the best eggs I've ever tasted. And I used to watch her as a little kid, like, how do you make the eggs that way? Now, as being a little kid until I, moved out of my house, I never really had to make my own eggs. And to this day, whenever I make eggs, if I have a little heavy cream, I add it a little and I think of her. And today is the 29th anniversary that she died. Today, April 26th, 1991.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said about food, I have eggs, I think of her. I'll have certain types of sauce. I think of, like even Cuomo. Cuomo said a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, I'm sure a lot of people saw the video. He talks about Sunday dinner with the family and you have the sauce and this and that. Certain foods trigger memories, certain
Oh, yeah.
things. But,
Oh, absolutely, dude. That's the whole reason I learned how to cook. I mean, there was a necessity for me to learn the basics, but when you're younger in your 20s, you don't care about cooking. You can grab a hungry man or a frozen pizza, and you're just as fine as having a home cooked meal,
Right.
because that's just our thought process when we're younger. Not everyone, but a majority of us. But it's when you get older and you don't want to eat the garbage from the frozen food section anymore.
Yeah.
You start really reminiscing over the foods that you enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I learned how to make rokotkumpli and lecho and kapusta and goulash,
Yeah.
because these were all foods that my family celebrated when I was young.
Yeah.
And as weird as it sounds too, is my grandfather was a real big component in that, because he didn't believe in just having meals. It always had to be a family meal. So whenever there was a birthday, whenever there was a holiday, for whatever reason that he could get everybody together, we would all get together around the table. And I mean, sometimes, like in the later years, it got goofy because he had a real big craving for Euro and White Castle. But I still love White Castle because of him too, though. It's kind of funny.
Man.
But I mean, as far as the actual Hungarian meals and stuff like that go, you know, my grandmother would cook it. My mother would cook it. I mean, my grandmother, like you were even saying about eggs and stuff, it immediately triggered what my grandmother did with eggs. She would take eggs and she would put them on like a wok, and she would cook the wok first, so the wok was red hot. And she would flip it over, and she would have the eggs already scrambled, and she'd put it on there, and the egg yolk would go down all the sides of the wok to make a very thin layer.
Yeah.
And then she would pull off the layer, put it on like flour on both sides, and she'd put jelly in the middle and roll it. Wow. And that was like a dessert. You know, that was a dessert for us. But it's like little things like that. I remember as soon as you were talking about your grandmother and eggs, I'm like, oh yeah, she did that. She was amazing at it. I think I tried doing it once and I just got eggs all over the floor. You know? So,
I tell you, food has always been good memories for me. And, you know, and the funny thing is, even before I started this diet about a year ago, my primary food source for about 35, 40 years was carbohydrates. I would go, was
spaghetti and pasta.
Spaghetti 3-4 times a week, potato chips, popcorn, pretzels. I could live off that. I was never a big meat eater. I'm still not. You know, I just, you know, now because of what I'm on, the things that I lived and that was primary, I can't have anymore. But, you know.
There's a lot of meats in Italian culture. A lot of meats, right?
But I'm not into like those dry sausage and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like, and even seafood. I'm not big on seafood. Like I'll have shrimps once in a while. I've never had octopus. I've never had squingili, calamari. You know, just me.
Yeah, I love that stuff. But that's our culture differences.
Yeah.
You know,
I have flounder. I'll have flounder. Once in a while, I have a little piece of lobster. That's pretty much it.
Now, did your family? Let me ask you this: when your family came over from Italy, did they come from like a port town, like a fishing town, or were they like a city town or?
My father came from Sicily. My mother was born in the United States, but her family came from Naples.
Okay.
So Sicily, I think that's a seafood town. Yeah, a lot of fish. That's the memory of my grandparents on my father's side. Fish, just everything was fish. My mom and her brother, my uncle, that's still alive. That's one of the things they always look forward to, the holidays, and he would come over and he'd make nothing but fish. He worked for a seafood restaurant. That's how.
Surprised you eat a lot of fish then.
Yeah, I just was never into it.
Huh.
I think I know why. I think I might have told this story once. And I think it's always kept with me for my entire life, even though I don't think about it. But my earliest memory of seafood is my uncle coming over our house for, I think, Thanksgiving or Christmas. And, you know, those holidays as far as food, Easter also, were huge. You would eat the day before and the next day. And it would be like every food you could imagine, but he would always come over to cook the seafood. And like I said, he was so good that he was a cook for a seafood restaurant for a very long time. And my earliest memory is him coming over with live crabs. And I remember my mom like going into the basement and bringing out this gigantic metal pot that was like this big. And I remember them boiling the water, and I remember my uncle putting them alive, the lobsters and the crabs in the pot. And just hearing that banging of the pot, I remember going in my room and crying. And whenever my uncle used to come over after that, like, he didn't mean any harm by it, but I would never let him see that. I would just make an excuse, go play video games or something. But I think that's the reason why I always stood away from seafood, because I immediately, it's subconscious, but I immediately think back to
No,
what
but
I
you're
used.
right. That's a perfect example of memory controlling
Yeah,
what we eat. You have a bad memory from being a kid around seafood,
yeah.
and even though you've had seafood since then, it's not something you prefer. But that's a perfect example of it. Your childhood eating habits, your childhood cuisine habits form those memories, positive and negative,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's
So when
probably
it comes
part of the
to the wet
reason
market, when it
why.
comes to the wet markets and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's geographical. It's based upon survival. You know, I mean,
I look at it
it's
more like a
vi-
delicacy. And I don't, I've, to me, the wet markets come off more like a delicacy. Like, you're not going to get any fresher than this. And they pay like top dollar because they want it that fresh,
it's
like,
efficient, though. That's the thing that drives people crazy is because they'll just hack off the limbs. Right, I've seen them. I've seen them just hack off the limbs right there and skin the animal while it's still half alive, and that drives people insane. But it's like they're not thinking of it in the terms of being humanitarian. They're
right.
thinking of it as being efficient
Yeah.
because they could do 100 of these as opposed to properly doing one or two of them. It's
Funny thing
I
is,
the human.
it's like the mob.
It's
It's like the mafia.
well,
When you
it's
kill like tons
fun.
of people, you have to separate the emotion of it. Like it should, you
Well,
can't just mafia used to torch people, cut their fingers off and stuff like that. Like you have to separate yourself from the actual violent part of it. They're just killing animals instead of killing people.
I guess, but I mean, I
But
don't
they're
wanna
doing
compare-
it to eat.
Yeah, they're not eating the people. God, I hope not.
I hope not either. So
Yeah.
shout out to Jason Lynn. What's up, my brother? Joseph Nicoluk. He wanted me to ask you, since he's still in Illinois, Illinois just declared this week that everybody has to wear a mask. Is it the same for you in Philly,
Oh, it's
Pennsylvania?
been like that. It's been like that in all of PA, pretty much since the beginning. And I talked about this a little bit before, I think on Frank and Gus, but there are a lot of laws that are affected and that are enacted in PA that aren't enacted anywhere else, and they're underneath the guise of control laws. For a while there was no way for people in PA to get a hold of any kind of liquor. I think it was last week that they opened up more than 400 places that would do curbside service.
Mm.
So now you can get liquor, but you can't walk around the store and pick it out. You just tell the person, and they go in and fetch it for you, and they do the transaction on the curb. But the reality is there's a lot of laws that are affecting PA that I've never heard of, that I never would have expected in Illinois. But the mask law was pretty much immediate. I don't know at what point they started to truly enforce it, because from day one they were like, you have to have a mask on. I think there was I'm not sure who it was enacted it, but they made it like a legal, like a punishable by offense law. And now you start to notice that every single store that you go to that's open, from gas stations to Targets to box stores to grocery stores, they'll have signs now on the door saying, if you don't have a mask, you can't enter. Which is the right thing to do. And then there's also other stores too, like and I loved Aldi for this, because they started doing this. Is as soon as you walk in, they clean off the cart handles for you. They give you wipes for your hands
Yeah.
before you even start. So it's like, not only are they expecting you to just come out with a mask and stuff like that, but they're going one step above and making sure that everything touched is clean before you even touch it.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of a neat thing too. So some stores do that, some stores don't. But
You know what I think is going to
Yeah.
change in this country? Our indoor lighting. Because of that study that they're focusing on now, that ultraviolet rays, like, just dramatically cut down the life of this bacteria. I think that,
which is sad, because that's going to be expensive.
yeah,
It's kind of like we're going back to the filament days.
yeah,
And it's funny because our lighting technology has completely changed now, where, back in the days of filament bulbs, which you can still find them and people still use them, but it costs you a lot more money because there's a lot more energy that's expelled from those, and heat that's expelled from those. people have graduated for many years now, for decades now, over to LEDs, which is nothing more than pretty much a chip and a
Right.
couple of like diodes, and that's what it is. And it creates this large amount of light, but there's no heat to it. There's barely any electricity that comes from it. So it's going to be kind of a weird workaround. Either that or everybody's going to get suntan beds. I mean,
I'm telling you, they're going to bring back the bulbs that, the people who are really big with the environment are going to be in an outrage for. But those bulbs actually could help kill the bacteria if it's inside your house.
well, I think another thing is one of the big things that we'll adopt from this. I think you're going to see people stick to wearing masks like they do overseas, like they do in other cultures. I don't think the mask thing is going to go away. I think that when they release the brakes on everything, people will take off their masks and go, no, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to still be a lot of people that adopt the idea that because now the whole reason that we wear masks isn't to be protected from the coronavirus. The whole reason that we wear masks now is to protect us from trying to infect other people.
Right.
So
Right.
it kind of gotten a reverse psychology thing going on for it. Because I don't know if you saw this, DT, but it was also released last week that they found out if you fart, you could give people coronavirus.
Oh, my God.
I'm dead serious. And it made perfect sense. But they said the reason that people don't think of that is because technically our asses are already wearing masks. You're wearing shorts, you're wearing underwear, you're wearing pants. But yeah, if you fart, I guess if you bare ass fart next to someone, you can technically get the coronavirus.
I closed out the Don Tony show Friday saying that a fart was the reason why I started wearing a mask when I leave my house to go to work. I don't know if you heard it, but about 4 or 5 weeks ago, like I would wear the mask once I got to my office, but I wouldn't wear the mask when I left my house to walk over to my car because it's only about 200 feet, 100 feet away, and I don't see anybody in the morning. I leave early. But one day, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I walked out of my house. I walked maybe 50 feet, halfway to my car, and I started going, and I'm like, oh, who the fuck farted? It was a horrible fart. I mean, it wasn't anything. It was a fart. And I'm looking to my left. I'm looking in front of me, behind me, and there's not a person in sight. This person, like, let one loose, and it lingered where this person either walked into their house or got in their car and left, and it was lingering. And that's when I was like, man, it scared me because if a fart could linger that long, where somebody could walk into their house or get in their car and pull away, what if somebody sneezes with the germs?
Yeah.
So that scared me into wearing the mask as soon as I walk out of my house. So, yeah, fart. So,
But yeah, no, fart literally can transmit COVID. That's a fact. It's just we usually wear pants.
yeah.
Unless you see a lot of naked motherfuckers running around.
Yeah. Trump's secret gay lover. What are our thoughts on Georgia's governor opening the state back up while the pandemic is still going on? Cody was happy about it.
Of course he was. It's funny how Cody's true colors is really coming through. How he's been, bashing Donald Trump and Trump followers for all this time. Now all of a sudden he's very in favor of the Republican ideas. He's very in favor of them, opening up states back to normal civilization. It's just, he's a complete hypocrite. But as far as Georgia opening up, I mean, I think that's a horrible idea. The reason is because even though there might be a lot fewer cases in Georgia, the reality is if you reopen the state, you are now opening up the state early while other people are still infectious. The whole reason that we locked down the whole country was because we wanted to stop the spread of this disease. Giving any way to the idea that this disease can continue to spread is just going to backtrack all the work that we've done so far. It really is. All it takes is just one explosion down in Georgia for it to respread all over again.
Well, you know what I would do? I would let the states open up as long as they still wore the masks and did the social distancing. And what I would do is I would
They
make.
don't want that. They want it all to go back to the way it was.
I wouldn't
You
do
know?
that, but well, for now. But what I would do is I would make the fine a crazy amount of money. Like if you open up your business and you don't follow certain guidelines, $5,000 fine. Somebody catches COVID and that person backtracks their steps. And one of the things is they went into a store and they say, well, in that store, they weren't wearing masks and this and that. And they go and they check out that store or look at the surveillance footage or whatever it is, $5,000 fine. Or
But why take the risk? If we're so close,
because we're a free country.
COVID is not socialist.
I know.
I think that's the biggest misconception is that people think that this is a communist disease. It's not communist. It's not socialist. It doesn't give a fuck what your political affiliations are. It's going to infect everyone. That's the problem. And people are thinking that, well, because we live in a warmer climate, we're less susceptible. It doesn't matter. You're susceptible still. If it was 100% proven that people in Georgia will not get the COVID virus because they're in Georgia, I'd be like, fine, open it up. But that's not the case. And there's too many people that are going in and out of that state that are going to be traveling with and without that disease, that are going to be expanding that to other states. It's just very dumb to open up the doors after we've sacrificed all. Matter of fact, it negates everything that we've done in order to try and curb this virus. It really has. And so I'm very, very much against it. I think it's very foolish to think that you're immune while the rest of the country is suffering. It's just, it's very ignorant.
One thing that drives me nuts, is one of the things that is stopping Cuomo from opening up areas, even upstate New York, where they have virtually none, zero, or not zero, but almost none, is he's saying, well, even though we have this area that has almost no cases, if we allow them to go back to business, then people are going to drive from Jersey, Connecticut, city to those areas because they're open again. And that pisses me off more than anything for one reason.
Really? You don't think it's logical?
That angers me more than anything because, and again, I'm not saying it's communism or socialism or anything like that, but we live in a free country. And the idea that someone can't take a drive somewhere, I wouldn't do it, but the idea that you're making someone, almost knocking them out of business because you're afraid that someone is going to drive from Jersey to upstate so they could go to a restaurant. We're in a free fucking country. You are allowed to do things that, that you're free to do. You just hope that people. So. I just feel that people should be smart enough.
You can't be smarter than a virus. It's not a matter of intelligence.
No, I don't mean that. What I'm saying is that, like me, I wouldn't go out without a mask right now. Not because I'm worried about getting fined, but I don't want to get sick. So if I
talk about the masks that you have don't prevent you from getting sick. It prevents your sick from getting other people sick.
Right. But what I'm saying is that if I'm not sick and, I'm going out somewhere and I'm allowed to, let's say they open up a store again, or, even right now, I go to a restaurant, pick up the food and bring it back home. I'm still interacting with some people. And if I go, I'm still going to wear gloves. I'm still going to wear a mask. I'm still going to do these things because I'm afraid. The idea that, someone is going to go to a totally different state just so they could sit in a restaurant, unfortunately, there are people out there, and look, I know this is going to piss you off and piss other people off, but there are people out there that, when the AIDS epidemic was going around, that there were people that still were having unprotected sex and elevating that risk of catching AIDS, or someone who may have had it, unfortunately go to a club and sleep with someone same sex or opposite sex, and they get infected and this and that. And the thing is that if I pick someone up from a club, I always wore a condom for two reasons. One, because I didn't want to catch nothing. And two, because I don't want to get somebody pregnant. But the thing is that there's nothing you can do that could prevent a spread of everything in this country. You have the chicken pox, or you have the measles, or you have a regular flu.
The entire country. AIDS did not shut down the entire planet.
Right.
The coronavirus has shut down the entire
but it's
planet.
getting better. There's some areas like Georgia.
We're the ones that need to worry the most. We're the last ones. It's not just our duty as Americans to stay inside. Right. It's our duty as human beings to be the last ones to kill off this fucking virus.
I agree,
people in Georgia think it's, well, you guys are keeping me from my business. I can't get to the local trucker stop. Dude, the people in Georgia, you have to realize the United States is the last frontier.
I agree, but
once it's done with us, it's gone.
No, that's not true, because some countries are careless still, and they're still having big bursts. My point is that you open up Georgia again, it's not like everybody's going to be like, oh, take the mask off, caught from people's faces. You could go bump elbows, get right into people's faces and hugs and this and that. I think even if the state opens up again, people are still going to wear the mask. People are still going to wash their hands repeatedly. People are going to still keep their distance from certain people. That they're going to take precautions to eliminate as much as possible.
You're thinking that humanity's going to do the right thing. I disagree. You're thinking Americans are going to do the right thing and not be selfish. I disagree. But I think that's why you need the government.
But that's what a free country is. A free country.
It's not a free country when you can kill other people just by breathing on them. It's not like, see, here's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand. They believe that their rights are being taken away because it's some kind of a socialist movement. Like having the COVID virus is inviting a socialist government to take place and ruin the country. That's not it at all. This is a medical state of emergency. I don't understand why places like Georgia, places like Florida don't understand that it's a medical state of emergency. It has no political affiliations. It has nothing to do with wanting to take away people's jobs. It certainly doesn't want to hurt the economy. But the reality is it's a medical state
of emergency. Where I would agree with you 1,000% right now? Everything that you said, I would agree with you 1,000% under one circumstance. Hopefully I'm not getting too personal when I ask you this, but did you get the $1,200 check?
Nope. I can't.
Have you tried to apply for pen?
I know other people that have, though.
Right. Matter of fact, what I'm saying is, even if you got that $1,200 check and you weren't doing your shows right now, you had no, income whatsoever, would you be able to afford right now your rent and the food and everything like that? My point is that I have not seen no $1,200 check. Sure. My fiance applied for unemployment 3 times since the end of February or early March. They still haven't approved it. So the thing is that
there are a lot of holes in the system, but this is where it falls on Trump's shoulders. The
government has to give everybody more money.
Failed. The amount of tests that were supposed to be supplied weren't 2 million like he said they were. Like, Donald Trump has made a lot of excuses and failures after failures after failures. Once again, though, that's a failure of our government.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Virus.
I don't think that someone should lose their home, lose their apartment, lose their business, go into massive debt that it's going to take decades to get out of, if
It
they
shouldn't.
live in an area that only if
You know that there's going to be relief systems on all of this.
right.
There's
But
no way
when do you wait
companies are
for it? This is 6 weeks already. Have you gotten a
I-
penny from this?
But don't blame the government or don't blame the COVID virus for that.
No, I blame the government.
Right. That's the government's failure. The
Right.
actual virus itself is still killing people. It's still making people sick. And
Right.
these people that want to go through that and say, well, let's just open up everything are not doing any favors to try and curb the COVID virus.
Right.
You're right. It's an attack on two different fronts. On one front, we have a financial system that is crippling right now, from people not being able to get their basic checks, people not being able to afford the food that they need, people that are just losing tons of business for the rest of the year, people that are seasonal that can't even go out there and work the jobs that they're meant to do. But on the other hand, you had a virus, an unseen killer
I
going
absolutely
around
agree.
people's lives. So what do? The one thing that we can do is we can hold on and pray that the government finally catches up and does the right thing and starts helping people out. Or we just open up all the doors and just, whoever dies from the COVID virus, go fuck yourself.
Well, that's why the government has to step up. If the government steps up
agree.
and everybody has money, look, if you said to me right now, hey, going to give you the $1,200 or maybe $2,000 a month until this winds down, no problem at all. But the thing is that I've gotten a goose egg. I was let me ask you this, technically with our shows.
That check, by the way, just to throw this out here to clarify, those checks are not federal, they're state.
No,
those
they're federal.
checks are
It's federal.
they're state.
IRS. Maybe in Philly, but it's IRS.
No, it's per state. Those checks are being issued to you by New York State.
Okay.
Our checks out here are being issued to us by Pennsylvania. Believe me, I looked into all of
All right,
this.
no, I believe you. But what I'm saying is that
what I'm saying is, and that's where I'm going with you on this one. I'm saying it's a government failure. So while you're not getting your check in New York State, people in Illinois are getting their checks.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If I'm in an area and it's a month, 2 months, and meanwhile I realize that now I owe about $5,000 between rent and bills and electric and car insurance and everything else, and I'm charging everything, and I got $5,000 in debt now, and we're going into another month, and still none of that money is here. It gets to a point you're like, look, I can't fucking run the risk of my landlord 2 months from now saying, all right, look, you got to make up the rent. Otherwise I have to evict you.
I have no doubt in my mind that the landlord policies. Well, first off, if you didn't know, there are no evictions in the United States.
Not until
right now.
June, but I already have.
Right.
I swear on my mother, I have customers that have already asked me, when can I start putting evictions in for my tenant? And
can't.
well, they can't until June. But the thing is that some tenants now think they're getting freebies. And I have at least one customer that said to me that his tenant told him, I don't have to pay you nothing while this is going on. All right, no problem. But, once we're back to normal, May, June, July, you got to make up for this rent. No, I'm not making up nothing. Evict me then.
I think at the end of the day, that's where the government is going to lean, because there's going to be a lot more people who can't pay for this time. And I think the landlords are just going to have to take a shit sandwich.
Well, this is what I think.
Mortgages are going to have to take a shit sandwich.
Right.
They're
This is what I
just gonna
think
have
needs to happen. I think the government needs to set up a fund called the landlord fund, tenant fund, landlord tenant fund, whatever. And what happens is that for 2 or 3 months that the tenant did not pay the landlord because the tenant was out of work, that the landlord could file a claim with the government and be reimbursed for those 2 or 3 months that the tenant could not afford the rent. This way, the tenant doesn't have to pay the back rent. The landlord still gets the money because he still got to pay the mortgage. I think that's what they need to do. They need to reimburse the landlords for the months that the tenants did not pay the rent.
The government's not going to do that. That's
Or
way
you
too
deduct
much
it from
money.
the taxes.
What I'm thinking, well, that could work as well. But what I think it would be best is if they just half off everything, half
I
off
agree.
everything.
I agree.
No late fees. No late fees on the months missed. And I've already started seeing insurance companies like my insurance company, my bank. I go through
15%.
Ally, I have Progressive. No, they cut off all late fees. There are no late fees.
Oh,
If you don't have
Geico.
the insurance money,
Geico.
no, even Progressive is doing that. That's who I
Well,
have. Is
I'll give you a little treat because I used to write
Sure.
with Progressive. You probably get something in the mail any day, or the announcement if they haven't done so already.
Right.
Geico already announced it. They're giving every customer, because I have Geico for my insurance, they're giving every customer 15% credit off their insurance for the month and a half of everything that's going on. So a lot of other insurance companies are now following suit. So whatever your car insurance policy is for a year, they're going to knock off 15 or 20% off the bill,
Good. I'm okay with it.
which is a great thing.
They've already knocked off late fees. Like they've already told me straight up, if you don't have the funds to pay, you don't have to pay.
Yeah.
We'll hold it. They'll basically what it is after 90 days. Because at the time when they did this, we were only expected to be in quarantine for 90 days.
Right.
Now, obviously, certain states have already pushed it back even further because of this. But they even said, you go ahead and push it back. We're not going to charge you late fees. You will be still completely covered, even though you're not paying your insurance, which is amazing. So even though your lease gets pushed back, your policy gets pushed back, you are still covered 100% by the policy that you have in place. I can't say nothing bad about that.
That's not bad. That's not bad. But
and maybe, well, think about it like this. That would even work for landlords. All the leases this time that we're here, you don't pay the money, but you still pay the money and your lease continues after this is all over.
right.
Yeah,
Look, if everybody was getting this money and would have had it already, in my opinion, the government should have gave this money to the people a month ago. If they're going to give everybody money every month while this goes on, no problem. Pay me to stay home. But again, I seen a goose egg. Even the pandemic unemployment. I was going to apply for the pandemic unemployment because even though I'm still in my insurance office because it's considered an essential business, I have a lot of customers who have canceled and I have to pay that commission back. So I'm getting hammered. And I applied for it and they're like, oh, in New York State, you can go on their website right now. It says somebody will contact you in 72 hours. I applied on March 26th, the day before my birthday. I went on the Hugh Easy podcast, March 26th. We did a 2-hour show, had a blast. I think he posted it today. Soon as we were done, I went in the other room. I took a shit, and then I went on the government's website and applied for pandemic unemployment. I have yet to get a phone call. So the thing is, I'm doing other side jobs in the meantime, but the point is that there are a lot of people who are in much more dire need.
of course.
And they're getting no money whatsoever, and they don't want to get anybody sick.
And I understand, but at the same point, you have to think that the only reason all of this is happening, it isn't a political, it isn't a political issue. It does show, unfortunately, the Swiss holes that we have in our government as far as it comes to surplus and keeping us, running as a country. But at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that this virus is gone.
Yeah.
We're
See, if I was Trump,
to get ahead.
if I was Trump, pay every American $2,000 a month until their state is officially back 100%. And then you add up the bill, and then you say to China, deduct it off of the money we owe you. That $20 trillion in debt for our loan, we're even.
Yeah, they're not going to agree to that.
Well, I know they're not going to agree with it, but
They're not gonna agree to it. You can't enforce it. Let's be honest.
I know, but
I love our country. We're not going to war with China. It's not happening.
But you know what? I think if
war.
If our government gave every.
Do you remember the last time that we fucked up and we fucked with China? Wasn't it like we had a drone bomb one of their schools or whatever it was over there? And we were backpedaling. I'm not sure if it was Obama or if it was Bush. I think it might have been Bush. And we backpedaled so hard. We're like, whoa, we fucked up. Sorry. But that's the thing is we can't. There's a weird stalemate with us and China. where we have a lot, they have a stronger industry, but we have, I guess, a better all overall economy in a way, even though we're in debt. We have a more functional economy.
I think
And
China should knock
you
off 3 or 4 trillion from the debt that we owe them. Wrongful debt suit. You got about 60,000 cases here in the United States.
they don't play by our rules, though. Their
know.
version, that's what I'm saying. You can't do that. Don't get me wrong. I'd love for something like that to work.
Or
But the realist in me says the only way that we could ever get that to work is if we enforced war. We're not going to do
you tariff everything coming in from China
yeah.
500%.
But they're going to tariff us right back too.
Right.
And we're
But
still
then
gonna
we make it in the United States. You want
Yeah.
to buy a TV and you want to buy it from China, no problem. That $500 TV now is now $3,000. You don't want to pay $3,000, then you buy American.
I'd love for America to return to its roots where
We'll have
we
Kobe
were-
cars and Kobe TVs and Kobe beef and Kobe fans. This fucking $20 fan will now be $150. I don't want to pay $150. I buy a fan that was made in Michigan.
No, and I get that, and I'd love to believe that our country could, recuperate like that and become a powerhouse like it used to be, and create most of our stuff in country. But I mean, some of the biggest American countries still use Mexico for parts,
Right.
still use Mexico for assembly, still use China for parts and assembled in America. Like, there's just so many different levels and layers to just saying that, oh, America should just start making their own stuff again.
I
can't.
like I said,
Not like it was in the 50s, man.
if I would have gotten the $1,200 and I would have gotten pandemic unemployment, no problem. I'll sit in my house. I'll fucking go on podcasts all day long until this virus is gone. No problem. But the problem is that I haven't seen that. And, this leads to John Krause's question. Well, actually, you know what? Before we even answer John's, because I know we got a ton of questions too, Murrell, shout out to him. We talked in a previous episode that delivering groceries for extra money. And one of us you were delivering for Walmart?
No, I have an employment with Amazon Flex.
Oh, cool.
The major problem that I've run into with Flex, though, is that all the jobs in my area, I don't get to see them. And so some of the closest jobs that I can get with Amazon Flex
Yeah.
are either directly in Philadelphia or in New Jersey, and I'm not driving an hour, you know what I mean, just to get paid $30 to drive an hour back. You know?
No. Well,
So it's unfortunately it's a victim of circumstance because the area is full. But yes, I am an employee with Amazon Flex. Absolutely.
He ordered from Walmart the other day, and he got a text, and he said that he's in, I think, near your neck of the woods, and he said that the person delivering it was Anthony, and he thought that, maybe it's Mish. But look, if we were to have a midlife crisis, what would we do to make us feel young again? Buy an expensive car, start riding a motorcycle, or date a hot 20-year-old?
Hot 20-year-old.
You really would? I wouldn't.
No, I mean,
Because I know I would be used. I'm too soft, man.
well, that's the whole point of it. I mean, you're not expecting to ride into your glory years with that 20-year-old.
Yeah, I would probably buy an expensive car if I could afford it. My father did that. I look back on it now. My father bought a convertible Mercedes in the 80s, and I realized looking back on it, he bought it actually traded in and got a convertible Jaguar. In fact, if anybody goes, because the video's still on Patreon, if you look at the video where my parents' house got devastated from Sandy, you
Right.
look at these two cars. One is a Jaguar, and I think he had bought that originally as part of a midlife crisis because he was depressed. And then it just, got flipped around like a toy. But John Krauser wants me to ask you, what are a couple of things that you miss that you can't do right now because of the lockdown?
go outside freely and wander. I mean, I can still drive around and stuff like that, but I can't go and visit any of. And this is one of the biggest things too. Is even in PA, there's a lot of history here. It's a very old state. A lot of history here that didn't even exist. I mean, Chicago and Illinois is old too, but there's like a lot of tours that I'd like to go see, a lot of museums, a lot of infrastructure that I want to go see. Even just wandering around Philadelphia and checking out all the stores and everything else like that. I can't do that. Everything's shut down. So there's just a lot of familiarizing myself with the area. I just can't do it. So I feel very prisoner like,
Yeah.
at the moment, which is fair. But I mean, that's what you want to do. You go to a brand new city, you move to a new area. The first thing you want to do is find your roots, find places to go, find places you like. Can't do any of that. I literally have to wait until this is over before, and that could be months from now. Knock on wood. Hopefully, it's not, but it could be months from now before I can even establish myself as, oh, this is the state, this is the city I live in. These are the people that are my neighbors. You know,
Yeah. My father,
this is very confusing. Yeah.
my father told me yesterday that his friend that lives down the block from him told my father yesterday, just get in the car and drive to Florida. They wanted to go to Florida because Florida, things are a lot more laxed out there. My father said no because my father's older. My father's afraid of catching the virus from someone else. But me, I miss going out to the diner with my girl. I miss going to my parents' house. Next weekend or 2 weeks from now is Mother's Day. And to be honest with you, and I might even do it this week, maybe Thursday, I haven't seen my mom. I've seen her for a total of 2 minutes in the last month and a half. And I'm really tempted of driving down to their house, even if I'm 50 fucking feet away. Just sitting on one side of the fucking porch and let her sit on the opposite side of the porch and we talk a little bit. And then maybe I drive back home. But,
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
my mom wants me to come up to Arizona, and I I actually thought about it. I think she wants me to fly,
Oh,
but I
really?
took a look to see how, dude, it's a 36-hour drive there and a 36-hour drive back. I'm like, well, even if there is no tolls technically right now, I don't think I could do that.
My girl is very scared right now of what's going on. Her parents are still in Ecuador. They're not coming home. They're not coming back here until everything is better.
Right.
I'm supposed to go to Connecticut the last week of May. I still have it booked, but if her parents aren't back in New York by the end of May to take care of the dogs, we can't go. I was supposed to have my engagement dinner 2 weeks ago. Couldn't do it. But the thing is, like yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, but yesterday Mick Foley bought a TV, and he was having a horrible time connecting. It was a big problem. And he's like, is there anybody that lives like near where I live, that could help me out with this TV? And I got a direct message about it. And I said to my fiance yesterday, I'm like, honey, you want to go take a ride? And she's like, where? I said, Mick Foley's house. She's like, for what? I said, he's got a problem. He bought his TV burnt out. He bought a new TV, needs help putting it in. I said, come on, let's go for a drive. Get out of the house. I'm not leaving this house. Couldn't go.
I mean, there's a reason why there's so much fear right now in this country, because of this virus. And it's kind of interesting too. And I talked to a friend of mine. She's a doctor, and she was even saying it's wild how people believe that the coronavirus got here in February, but that's not actually true. There were cases going back to November
Yeah.
where they were diagnosing it as upper respiratory disease because they had no name for what was taking everybody out. They just thought it was an upper respiratory infection. And until it came out that it was COVID, there was thousands upon thousands of cases just in Chicago alone where people had this upper respiratory infection, So the fact that it's still continuing now and we don't even know the real body count. That's the craziest thing about this. The body count that we have now is actually less, much less than the actual body count because of so many misdiagnoses on what was killing people even a couple months before that.
You know what?
You know, so
One of my patrons asked me last week, I thought when I first heard the question, I'm like, I don't know if I should even bring it up. Then I thought about it, I'm like, that was a pretty awesome question. Not trying to insinuate. I would never say it online. But he said, you think there's any possibility that Rocky Johnson died because of COVID? Remember the scenario that he just felt run down and all of a sudden he got hit with the flu out of nowhere, and the next thing you know, he was dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes
I
you
mean,
wonder.
like she was telling me, she's like, there was thousands of cases going back to November. They didn't have an answer for it, and they just diagnosed it as upper respiratory infection. But it started becoming so commonplace, I think that's when 2 and 2 started to come together. I mean, as far as the testing goes, like even the tests are wrong. This is the scariest thing about all this, that places like Georgia really pissed me off. Places like Florida really pissed me off because the tests are inaccurate too. We have half the tests that are 50% right and 50% wrong. And then we have other tests that we don't have enough of that are all testing these people positive. But we don't have enough tests. So how can you sit there and say, well, that's the correct number and everything is going down? It's not going down. We've run out of fucking tests.
I got a good one for you.
Problem.
I got a good one for you. Let's say there's a test right now, because the word is it's like measles. Like you get it once, and more than likely you can't get it again. All right. So let's just go on. Well, let's just go on that.
Okay.
But let's just go on that idea that you get it once, it's almost impossible you could get it again. Just go on that. Now, let's say there's a test right now. It's pretty much 100% for the antibody. Now, let's say the test is available, and would you object to this idea that you get tested for the antibody, and if your body has the antibody in it that fought this virus that you had and didn't even know it, or you recovered from it and you really can't get it again, what about the idea that because you have the antibody and you can't get it again, and they give you some type of a card or a certificate that says that you have the antibody in you? It's almost like, you go somewhere, you have to show proof that you had a tetanus shot or a flu shot, or, when you were a baby, they gave you whatever that shot is. So what about the idea that if you get tested, you have the antibody in you, and you apparently may have had it and got cured from it, and they give you a certificate or something, and you go back to work, since you can't give it to somebody else? Would you have a problem with that?
You might still be a carrier.
Right, but if it says that I'm not infectious anymore,
the effects of the disease doesn't mean that you still can't carry it.
Or you get the certificate, and then you have to stay quarantined for at least 14 days just to make sure it's out of your system, and then you could go back to work.
Well, that's what they're doing now, isn't it? I mean, if you're coming from Canada or Mexico, Mexico.
Yeah,
I mean,
but a lot of people aren't following that.
International travel. If you're if you're traveling internationally, you're stuck for 14 days somewhere before they let you even go out into the main part of the U.S. So,
yeah. John Krauser also asks, what do we think will be different when WWE first comes back with a live audience? What do you think will be different about the TV?
It'll be empty still. I mean, I think it's ludicrous. Maybe the first event might be a little bit packed, but I think for the most part, you're going to see a more sparse audience than you've ever seen before, because not only are you taking into account the fact that WWE hasn't really put on the best shows lately, but you're going to take into account the fact that people don't want to be sitting next to people just for the fuck of it anymore, and even take the risk of getting hurt, of getting sick.
I think
not for a while anyways. I mean, I think everything will go back to normal, DT, but I don't think that's going to be like that for months, if not till next year, easily.
Yeah.
That's
why I say with the money thing, personally, where I live in New York, I don't think it's going to go back to normal till next year.
Yeah.
That $1,200, like I said, it's going to feel like What?
Yeah, people are going to be gun shy. They're going to be completely gun shy. Like, it doesn't matter that the stores and stuff like that will open. Maybe in places like Georgia it'll be different. I don't know. But I think for the rest of the common sense world, I think a lot of us will look at this and we'll still be very aware and wary of the people next to us because nobody wants to go through that. God forbid somebody that was a COVID sufferer, they sure as fuck don't want to go through that again. You know,
To me, it will not go back to normal anywhere in the United States and beyond until there's a vaccine.
Even then, I think it's still going to be a little bit sparse. I do. I think this is going to permanently alter public events for a very long time.
Yeah.
Not just WWE, concerts, big events, gatherings, sports stadiums. Like, I think everything is going to change just a little bit. Like, it's one of those things. We won't be practicing the 6-foot rule anymore, but you're not going to find people breathing down your neck anymore either. You know?
I've been watching a lot of documentaries about 1917 and 1918. And I saw in a few of them bring up that flu of 17 and 18. Do you know?
Flu, yeah.
Do you know what year was the last year that they? How many? Well, let me rephrase that. Do you know how long that virus lingered until? What year?
Yeah, 1924.
I think the last reported case was like 1955 or something like that. But you're right.
Oh.
It was early 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was a lady. I remember watching a couple of the Spanish flu documentaries. There was an old lady, and she's like, it took them from till 1924 before people would even gather at churches again.
Yeah. I think WWE's first event, this is my prediction, WWE's first event with a live crowd is going to be in a state that is allowing, crowds to assemble again. It is going to be outdoors, and there's going to be major protests and I don't know if it's going to be Florida, but it's going to be a state that has very few cases of COVID that is allowing, people to be close. And then what WWE will do is you're allowed to sit next to whoever comes with you. Like if you're going with your wife and your kids,
Right.
Or your brother, you're allowed to sit next to each other. But the next group of strangers, 6 feet away. So
Right.
if you buy a certain number of tickets, there's going to be, okay, you're going to get seats A, B, C, and D. Okay, there'll be no seats available for seats E and F. Then it starts again. I think that's how it's going to work. So if you buy a ticket, they immediately are going to credit you for 2 or 3. So let's say I want to go to the WWE event. Okay, the first event's going to be here in New York. I go online to buy a ticket, and I say, okay, I want 2 tickets, me and my fiance. When I put in 2, it's actually going to spit me out 4 or 6.
That's actually smart. I'm okay with that. That's at least an idea that is beneficial to everybody.
Yep.
People don't want to be stuck in their homes. I understand that. Once again, it goes back to what we were saying initially. Nobody's fucking enjoying this. Stop trying to fucking turn it political. But at the same time, now you've allowed people access to doing something at least normal that they would have done before this shit happened, but at the same time trying to keep people safe. And you still have to wear your mask. I'm sorry. Even if you're at the arena, I don't give a fuck. You still got to wear your mask. Got to wear your gloves. Got to wear your mask.
You know what I love? John Coffey brought this up, and I noticed it this week. I love this idea. Drive-ins are coming back. You want to go to the movies? Instead of sitting in a movie theater, you go to a parking lot. Sit in your car with your significant other or your family.
Drive-ins are brilliant. I loved drive-ins back in
love
the day.
the
There was
idea.
out of Illinois, too, that I used to go to all the time. And there was drive-ins and stuff like that. You know what? That's probably one of the few things you can do during this virus that is normal. That is normal.
Seriously, I love the idea. I can't tell you, and this is no joke, because I brought it up on old shows that I've done, if anybody's been around that long. One of my fondest memories is going to a drive-ins with my friends and hanging out. And some of you may remember this story, that one of my fondest memories is my friend Billy. Mish, you're on my personal Facebook page. Look up William A., and I won't say the last name. He used to be a cop. You look at him now, I mean, you see older pictures of him, you'll see he's like 6'5". He's a stick. And we used to go to drive-ins, me and like 6, 8 other people. Not to fool around or anything, but we would just go to hang out. And we would stop at like 7-Eleven. He would buy these pre-cooked ribs, chips, cake, soda, ice cream. He would load up crazy amounts of shit. And then we were like, how does this guy stay this thin and yet he eats 10 times more than anyone else? And we used to go to the drive-in. I saw Eddie Murphy raw at a drive-in. I saw lots of movies at drive-ins, and we used to just park, turn the radio up, and we would just hang out in the car. Or we would, maybe you don't sit outside anymore, the car, we would sit on the hood or whatever. You'd always have some cars that the windows got steamed and people were getting laid and this and that, but I love the idea of drive-ins returning.
Sure.
Love it. I guess let's talk a little bit about wrestling. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Velveteen Dream stuff. My honest opinion for anyone out there, if you did not catch the Don Tony show, I don't know if you covered it yet on Frank and Gus but Friday I talked about it for over half an hour. And when I talked about it Friday, there was only the first video had come out. So I gave my thoughts on it. So we're going to kind of like pick up where that leaves off and we'll give our thoughts. I have no idea what Mish's thoughts are about it, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But John wants me to ask, and I already know the answer, but did you see the video with Carmella and Corey Graves? The Panda video.
Yeah, I did. It was...
Think that relationship's getting on thin ice?
Well, I mean, when you build a relationship on things like cheating on your wife and being a man stealer and abandoning your kids, yeah, I think that relationship has a good turn,
I think Corey Graves really cares about Carmella, but you could see Corey Graves, it reminds me of CM Punk a little bit, where Corey Graves, yes, he does a podcast. Yes, he's a commentator on a damn good one. But I think Corey Graves is not the extremely sociable type. And I think Carmella is the type that wants to do loads of videos, TikTok and this YouTube, whatever. Right. And I think more and more you see that clash where Corey Graves like, I don't fucking want to be in this stuff. I don't know if that comes off that way to you, but to me, Corey Graves is just coming off as, she's going in this direction and he's going in this direction.
Sure. I think the reality is when he's spending time with her on this level, as opposed to having an arm's distance relationship because of their job, I think now he's seeing her and himself in a relationship for what it actually is. And the things that he found cute and quaint about her before are no longer such. I don't doubt that they've probably gotten into more than a few arguments. I would not be surprised if Corey Graves has stood inside of his bathroom, looked in the mirror,
yelled,
said, I made a big mistake.
I agree, man. It's a shame, but look, I'm not going to lie.
Guys can read guys. Look, that's the one thing. And it's always kind of funny that, and this goes back to cave days and tribalism and shit like that. But women talk a lot. Women are very good at displaying their emotions and saying exactly what's on their mind. And they're able to enunciate their feelings, for a lack of a better term. Men have always been able to look at another dude and just see what he means on his face. You can tell when a guy is angry. Right. A dude can just look at another dude and just, he's pissed. He's in hell. I feel bad for that guy. Like, you can just look. And I think that that's just the hunter-gatherer stuff. And I know a lot of people, that's sexist. I don't think so. I think it's a part of evolution. I think it's a part of our history. And in our history, men, that's a male bonding thing. That's just guys knowing when guys are in shit. If a guy's getting yelled at his girlfriend, we can tell if he's laughing about it or if he's just rolling his eyes or gritting his teeth. These are all signs to us that women don't always get. Women don't always understand.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, any guy that was watching that didn't understand that Corey Graves was not having a good time uh, needs to recheck. Needs to
Yeah.
recheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of I've had some little issues with her, but nothing big. Just like me, I respect what's going on. Like, I don't do things other than my office, deliveries, the store, come home. But, man, I want to just get in my car and just take a cruise, blast the radio. I'm not stopping off anywhere. Hey, honey, let's go for a drive for a half hour. I'm not leaving the house. It gets a little bit like, today I fell asleep a half hour before we were doing the show because I was just laying around watching TV, and you get into that like vegetative, like I gotta like move around. I agree with you before. A lot of people's houses are probably cleaner than before, but my energy is more of, I think, a mental energy than I need than anything else. But and speaking of doing things, he wanted to know, what do we do? What are we doing right now, like to hustle a few extra bucks? So I've said before, I've done taxes for a lot of customers. I have delivered groceries in the neighborhood, doing the podcast, trying to make a couple of dollars off of the shows as much as I can, and my insurance office.
That's what it's been for us. The podcast and Amazon Flex. We put out a lot more episodes. Joe and myself haven't stopped doing episodes, and we're just doing whatever we can. And on the side, Amazon Flex. If I find one job in the King of Prussia, I take it. If I can't, then I can't.
Yeah.
For the most part, there are jobs available to me that I'm going to have to start trying for. But I'm still so new in the area that when I get these weird addresses, I don't even know if I'm going to the right area, So I have to start Googling, like, where the fuck is this place? And then once I Google it, it's like, oh, it's an hour and 12 minutes away. Yeah, I'm not going to that, So
What about Domino's? Because I keep seeing in my neck of the woods, tons of commercials with Domino's saying, we're hiring, we're hiring, we're hiring.
I haven't seen one Domino's out here.
Really?
I'm not saying they're not out here.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one.
Well,
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to, I got some groceries from Amazon the other day. And by the way, here's a little tip. I don't know how different it is in some other states, but I know there's a lot of New Yorkers that are on Patreon. But up until a couple of weeks ago, if you went on Amazon Fresh after midnight, some delivery time slots would open up. They stopped that. Now I'm noticing that time slots will open up sometimes in the late afternoon, early evening. What you got to do is you got to go to the checkout screen, and then the screen where you pick your delivery date, even if it says there's none available, stay on that screen. And every so often, if you're online, just reload that page. Reload that page. Every 5-10 minutes, reload that page. And eventually some slots will appear. You pick the slot, and then that slot's reserved for you automatically for an hour. So you get the slot, and then you could go back and finish your grocery shopping or whatever. So that's how I've been able to do it. But the guy delivering my groceries here on Friday, and I was talking to him for a few minutes, and I said to him, I said, how's it been? He says, not bad. And I said, are you short of drivers or, and he says, no, he says, they've been pretty stacked. I mean, but they don't air commercials to hire. What you got to do is you just got to send an inquiry into Amazon, I guess with the Flex, and see if they'll offer it. But he says he's been busy nonstop with it. He's been making pretty good tips from it, so.
Yeah.
So, D-Boy gentlemen, I guess just to summarize what we were talking about before with China and the virus, at the end of the day, do you think the virus started in the wet market or in the lab?
In the labs.
Yeah.
There was a few conspiracy theorist guys that went through like a lot of different information going back to, stuff that Bill Gates was talking about back in 2016 about viruses, about a pandemic and everything else like that. And the idea that I guess there's a vault a virus vault somewhere in China. I forgot the exact. It wasn't in Wuhan, but it was somewhere in China. And apparently, sometime last year in 2019, this vault was broken into. This vault was broken into, and a number of different viruses have, went missing and everything else like that. And it's just kind of interesting. And this was news. It went through, you saw it on the New York Times and a few other places. But this is one of those news right under the radar. Nobody really thought much of it. And I mean, if you put two and two together, it does seem like this might have been something that was broken into. And that's the other thing, too, about this COVID virus. A lot of people think that this isn't the main virus. A lot of people think that this is the setup because the actual virus symptoms mutate, which is another major problem with this, which is why I just think it's so insane that places like Georgia and Florida want to open up. Because once you have the virus, it's just not gone. It doesn't leave your body completely. It's not like you're 100% cured. It stays in your system.
Right.
And in China, they've already linked the virus mutating into neurological defects. So people are having symptoms of Alzheimer's and schizophrenia based on long-term effects of the COVID virus.
Yeah.
So until this vaccine actually comes out, until a cure, for a better term of words, comes out in order to fix this, I don't think anybody should be leaving anywhere.
Yeah, I see. My whole thought is that I don't think it started from a bat, but I do know that there have been sick bats or sick animals, and I think what could have happened is, an animal could have eaten the feces of something that was sick or ate something, and that's how it became infected. But I think originally, it was an accident in the lab. I think somebody accidentally got some virus on them and then inadvertently gave it to someone, and the chain reaction started. I think the wet markets is based on assumption, or some people are saying, well, common sense. Look at the lack of sanitary conditions in the market. The market is right. A lot of people are like, oh, you see that there's too much of a coincidence. The lab is right by the market. I say the opposite. I think the market was near the lab. So a lot of people think, well, the lab is where it happened, but look at the market. The market is so unsanitary, so the market is the one but I think it's the opposite. I think it's just coincidence that the market was so close to the lab. So I think it started in the lab. I think it was an accident, but they tried to cover it up. They thought buying those millions of masks from us early on would be enough for them to keep it in control, and they didn't think twice about letting some people leave the country. But like I said, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I can't help but to keep thinking about the fact that they would not let people travel from Wuhan to different areas of China, but they let those very same people go to Europe.
Well, I'm glad you don't believe in the magic bat theory.
No, I don't believe in the magic bat theory at all. No, I think it's just, it's like the wrestling news that came out today that Vince is very high on Angel Garza. And I'm like, well, when you see him fucking portrayed on television like one of the main characters the last 5 weeks, I think that's common sense. That's not news. But people look at common sense sometimes and they report it as news. I think people see the market so close to the lab and they're like, look what goes on over here. You didn't think sooner or later that somebody... It's like if I'm handling red meat all day and raw chicken and stuff, and I start rubbing my eyes, picking my nose, touching my mouth without washing my hands, and then I get sick, like, you didn't think you were going to get... You know what I mean? It's just, did. So I think it's just people trying to put two and two together, and they think they know the answer, but it's a scapegoat. I think the market was a scapegoat. But shout out to David Peralta. Yesterday marked the 25th anniversary of Mobb Deep's The Infamous. My favorite songs from it, only two. Shook Ones Part 2 and Survival of the Fittest. And I am definitely going to look at Prodigy's book. I'm not one to read books, But if they have an audio version of it, I'm gonna check it out. So, Roger Rubio, what school did I go to? I went to St. Margaret's. Well, originally I went to PS 128. I got kicked out of that for ruining their radiator system, as I told the stories before. I got thrown out of there in 3rd grade. Then I went to St. Margaret's School, and then I went to St. Francis Prep. After I graduated prep, I made St. John's University, and after going for like 2-3 weeks, I stopped going. When I graduated prep in high school, I signed up for St. John's University. I was going to be an accountant. And what happened was, without getting into a whole long story, the first day I showed up at St. John's, I saw about 20 of my friends that I went to high school with. We were all hugging, oh my God, you're going to St. John's too, this and that. So we were like, let's not go to class. So we all went to a diner and ate the first day. So we didn't even go to class. The second day, we went there and I saw other people that I hadn't seen from the summer that were going to St. John's too. St. John's University used to have this big arcade. So we hung out in the arcade all day and we didn't go to school. So for the first 4 or 5 days, I didn't go to school. And I'm sorry if this sounds racist to people out there. I don't mean it in any way, shape, or form. But when I graduated and then I didn't show up for the first 5 days of St. John's University, after the first week, I'm like, I got to go. My parents paid big money for me to go. So the day one of the second week, I walk into my class, and the first class I walk into, and then look, I'm not trying to be racist in any way. I'm just trying to use the accent so people could get an idea. I sit in the class. This guy walks in. Hello, my name is Dr. and I'd like to welcome you to the... I couldn't understand a fucking word the guy was saying. And I'm like, How am I going to go to this class? I went to the office or whatever, and I'm like, look, is there any way I could change classes? I can't understand this guy. And they're like, this is only, the second week, and, be patient, this and that. They wouldn't let me transfer. So for the first couple of weeks, I kept cutting out of school. And then I was like, that's it. So my parents paid for the first year of St. John's University, and I went to 2 classes.
Wow.
And I never went back. And, that was it. Could not understand the guy. The first guy was Indian. The second guy was Chinese. I could barely understand everything. And I'm like, I can't. So I cut out. So I regret it to this day. But, and thank you, Roger. And I want to thank everybody who is there as well. Yeah, almost at 11,000 now. I tell you, man, never in a million years. I kind of like undercut myself because I put on YouTube that my first day there was January 20th, but I actually been saying it was January 15th because you and I, the first show we did was Wrestling Breakfast Soup on there. I really didn't count that because it was a Patreon show, but technically my first show was about 93 days ago. I already broke 10,000. So it's awesome, man. I mean, I'll say this. Friday night was a game changer. And I'm not saying for you, but if you're ever thinking about like a night to do a show, Friday night might be the way to go. Because I can honestly say to you, Mish, that Friday night for the last 2 weeks, I've had more people tuning in live than any show, with the exception of the WrestleMania recap. Friday night, I did 2 hours, and I was looking at the stats, and from people just checking it out and everything, it was already up to like 3,500 people. But at the 2 hour mark, there was still almost 850 people live on YouTube. And I said, you know what?
Funny about that?
Huh?
Back in the day when you were doing the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show, the early days, you were getting 3,000, 4,000.
Yeah. But YouTube, like, I mean,
it's
let's
a different
face it.
Right.
Yeah, but let's face it. Monday nights, you got JD doing a live show. You got Jason doing a live show. You got every person and their mother doing a live show. So everybody's splitting viewers. Friday night, not a lot of these podcasters are doing a show. And Friday, after 2 hours, there was still almost 900 people in YouTube. And I'm like, all right, I'll stay for another hour. And I end up doing 3 hours. So Friday is quickly turning into the big show, pun intended.
Right.
And the funny thing about it is Friday is the least prepared show that I do.
Right.
You know, Monday I put all this stuff together. Wednesday I put all this stuff together. Friday I go into it talking about SmackDown. I talked about Velveteen Dream and maybe 2 other topics, and that was it. So, you know, Friday seems to be the day where you could make some serious coin, even if you just push Frank and Gus or, you know, something. Friday is weird because I never in a million years, I understand everybody's home right now, but I never in a million years would ever think that my biggest live audience would be on a Friday night. So I just figured I'd mention it. And I never thought I would get that many people this soon, you know. And I said it Friday. I don't want you to respond to this, Mish, but, you know, haters and jealousy feed me to try to do an even better job. And when I had people early on, like just knocking my shit and putting me down and, you know, making fun of somebody this old trying to be a star on YouTube, you know, I kind of was like, all right, you know, nothing, I don't take it personal, but I'll evolve and I'll see what clicks and what doesn't. And, you know, I never in a million years ever expected to get almost 11,000 people in 3 months, but I'm having a ball, man. I'm having a ball. So
good.
It's not easy, man. Seriously, I have a newfound respect for JD and Jason and others who do that because it is a lot more complicated. Just running this helm in the background. It's almost like looking at a plane, like display. There's so many little things you got to look at. You know, the bit rate and stream settings, even your stream. I changed your settings today for the first time because I realized that I kind of had your settings way too high. And I noticed the last 2 times, like your video would get a little choppy. Today, it's been flawless. Sure. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, I think I needed to do video, not to be a star, but I think I just needed a big challenge. Something to really just, and it took a life of its own. But I want to thank, you know, everybody that sent the kind words. Much appreciated. So Roger wants me to ask you, what is a total scam that people still fall for?
I was thinking about this one, but the video game scams are still big. So what a lot of people do, and it's not even just video games, but it's digital content online. For like eBay and Etsy and a lot of other sellers like G2A and everything else like that, where people will take stolen credit card numbers. They will purchase items underneath that false credit card and then resell those items for cheaper on these other digital platforms. And when you purchase them, you're purchasing them underneath a credit card fraud. But you know, you bear the brunt of it. Like I was even talking about it before, like if you purchase games online, what a lot of these places will do, like Steam and whatnot, is as soon as you pull up the game and you install the game, they won't get you right away, but then they'll find out that the actual license was paid for by a fraudulent credit card, and they'll just remove the product from your library.
Yeah. And
now you're stuck with nothing, but you paid physical, actual money to the person that scammed you. And that's still going all over the place. It's ridiculous how it's just uncontrolled. But
yeah. Speaking of video,
happens a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of video games, Andrew, by the way, thank you, Andrew, because I didn't even know about this. You ever hear of this video game that's coming out? It's called Virtual Basement. And they have like Impact Stars on it, Ring of Honor. Enzo just got signed to it. It's called Virtual Basement. Some type of video game that's going to be coming out. I think it's a little delayed because of what's going on. But if you have not, I've never heard of it until Andrew mentioned it today. but there's some YouTube videos. And what's interesting is that they're actually drawing the wrestlers. Like, it's not screens or computerized. They're actually drawing them. So it looks very interesting. Ken Shamrock's in the game. So it has a lot of Japanese women in the game. Some women from Women of Wrestling is in there. Got some
Virtual
very
Base
interesting.
company that is making the game, but it's not the name of the game itself.
No,
I'm looking at their site right now, and they're the ones that made Arc, with Microsoft. So
yeah.
Right.
So, and happy 28th, Andrew. Happy 28th. Years fly by, my friend. Years fly by. It blows me away. Even like when my mom brought up to me today that today's the 29th anniversary of my grandmother dying. It doesn't feel like yesterday anymore, but I still remember what I was doing exactly. And today actually is the 29-year anniversary I went to Atlantic City. You know, I think I told you the story that time. You know, my grandmother died. I was working for Chase Manhattan Bank doing collections. And I remember my father calling me up. It was like 12:30 in the afternoon, and he was crying. And I had no idea what had happened. And he says, you need to come home. I said, what happened? He didn't want to say, but then he told me, he says, you know, your grandmother died. And I wasn't sure which grandmother he was talking about because his parents were alive still. This was my grandmother. This is the one that he never got along with. You know, I said she despised my father. And my father's the one that found her. And what happened was I raced home from Garden City to my house. And, you know, we found out. And I had this overwhelming guilt because my grandmother, she's the one that got me into wrestling. And for about 2 years leading up to this, when are we going to Atlantic City? When are we going to Atlantic City? When are we? Nanny, we'll go maybe next week. I'll see if I can get off to work. I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and then she died. And I talked to one of my friends, Paul, and it was just really weird. And I told him, I'm like, man, I have such an overwhelming guilt right now, and because of the Atlantic City thing. He's like, let's go. And I'm like, let's go. He says, yeah, let's go tonight. He says, you know, they weren't burying her for like 2 days. They were doing it in 2 weeks, 2 days. He says, let's go tonight. Tribute to her. And he gave me the idea of going to Atlantic City, getting a poker chip, bringing it back. We didn't have eBay or internet, stuff like this. This is 1991. So there was no internet. So we went all the way to Atlantic City that night. And meanwhile, I'm grieving because I was closer to her than my even parents at the time. And, you know, I was losing early on. I ended up winning a little bit. And came back home around 3 or 4 in the morning. And I had the poker chip. And when we went to the wake, you know, they put scratch-off tickets in her casket. They put a Hulk Hogan figure in her casket. She loved Hulk Hogan. Oh, my God. You have no idea. And I put the poker chip in her hand. And then I said to her, we went to Atlantic City. And, you know, it still gets me a little choked up. But so today's the 29th. I don't know how we got on this topic, but no, I know why, because you realize the years fly by that fast, man. It's almost 30 years that she's been dead. So, but yeah, it's a true story. But I want to shout out Marco Wolfson also. Marco, man, he has heard a lot of our conversations talking about people who complain about, you know, not having any money right now, but they have $1,000 phones and $1,000 watches, you know, the iWatch and all this stuff. And he was bringing up on how he grew up in Yugoslavia in the 80s and the 90s and how bombs were being dropped on his town. Then he went to Canada, and then his parents split up, and his father was trying to get the house to throw everybody out, and he had to take his own father to court and this and that. And he told me this whole thing, and this was all before he was even 24 years old. So, fascinating story, Marco. I don't want to say any more online because I don't know, you know, if if you want to reveal, but very powerful, man. Very powerful. Getting back to wrestling, Ben Salmon. If The Fiend interfered in one of the Money in the Bank matches and played with time, I don't know what that meant, who would you most like to see get eaten by T-Rex in Vince's office? I guess he's saying if The Fiend was able to go back in time and interfere with the money, I guess somehow The Fiend is able to get a T-Rex eat somebody. Like, who's the one person in the Money in the Bank matches so far that you would just love to see get eaten alive? Career-wise. I don't know where this question came from, and Aaron did not send this in.
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
I'll say Dana Brooke.
Sure, that sounds like a good one. Let's go with Dana Brooke.
Yeah, I'd just say Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke. John also says, Kev said that if we have to give up meat, then the truth is if we give up meat, cheese, milk, bread, sugar, all that produces mucus in our body that makes us sick. That's why there's tons of fruits and vegetables, but we're running out of other stuff. John, honestly, I don't take food advice from anybody. I'll take little bits and pieces from different people, but as far as things being, not available because of COVID, I think it's more because, manufacturing is all fucked up right now. You have tons and tons, of dairy, and it can't get delivered. This is what I say to that and this mucus thing, whatever that's about. You have tons of restaurants that are closed. Where does all that food go? You have things being, they have to give it away or they have to throw it out. There's crazy amounts of food that's being wasted right now because of what's going on. So some things being short, if it's not just in demand, it's because right now some of the companies aren't able to produce. You get a little COVID outbreak in a manufacturing firm that produces like a certain item, they may have to close the place down for a little while. So, but I don't take food advice from anybody. I like to look at all this research and make my own judgments. Plus, I think everybody's body acts differently. You might eat something and break out that I may eat it and, enjoy it. So, Christ in the Toyverse. What's up, Bob? What protagonist from a book or a movie would make your worst roommate? Your worst roommate.
Oh, man.
I would choose any serial killer.
Yeah, something that makes a lot of noise.
I would choose like John Wayne Gacy or, somebody that brutally murdered people and dismember them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or there you go, Freddy. Freddy would be the worst roommate.
Oh, okay.
Because you can never go to sleep.
That's true. Yeah.
Within 5 days.
Freddie would suck as a roommate. Could you imagine that? Hey, let's play cards. No, man, I'm tired. No, let's fucking play cards, man. No, I'm going to go to sleep. Well, you know what? You go to sleep. I'm going to fuck you up in your dreams, so you better stay up and play cards with me, motherfucker. He would never he blackmail you. You'd have to stay up with him. Hey, let's he would be an asshole, seriously. When was a time that we acted nonchalant but were going crazy inside? We both could have the same answer.
No, you know what? I think mine might be a little bit different. College graduation.
Okay.
I was nervous as fuck, and I had to keep my cool, But yeah, college graduation was a big deal for me.
For me, many times right now, it's nice that, I'm keeping my bills in check and everything, but psychologically, it's taken a lot out of me. I said this on Friday. A couple of days ago, I wouldn't put the TV on. I didn't want to watch any of this Trump stuff anymore. It was just dead silence in my house. And I went into my kitchen, and I don't know why, but I got this overwhelming feeling about my dog. And I'm like looking at different areas of my house where my dog used to do this or used to do this, used to do that. And then I started thinking about my mom and my dad because they're not in the greatest of health and I can't even see them. I can't go out, can't go,
Right.
do anything to get my mom. That's why I kind of had a little bit of sympathy for people that just wanted to get their nails done. I know it's still a wrong time, but I think they just wanted the psychological feeling that things are getting back to normal. That unknown or that it's like my father when Sandy hit, and the idea that he could just take a hot shower. It's
Sure.
like even the smallest little things give you this psychological sense of normalcy. Some people need that. So I don't think it was just superficial. I think some people just felt like, I got to feel like I have a little normalcy in my life. So I think
Right.
that's why some people did that, even though it's still a stupid thing. And I apologized online the other day because you and I kind of disagree with that too. You don't want a couple of selfish morons reinfect, the entire, town because all it takes is one douchebag. You get one
Right.
person that's infected, standing next to him in a post office.
Didn't you read those stories? Like, I don't know how far it went, but there was somebody that actually had COVID and they were purposely infecting people
Yeah.
or purposely coughing on people and sneezing on people. I don't know whatever happened with that. I would like to know what happened to that guy. I really would.
A lot of states are considering it a terroristic threat. So
That's a good example of, yeah.
that's terroristic threat. You're intentionally, that's like a bioterrorism. That's bioterrorism. You have an illness and it's like that
It's
guy.
assault. It's assault.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's assault.
Some guy got life in prison. It's an infamous story, and I know a lot of people may remember it. There was some guy maybe 10 years ago who had AIDS. He knew he had AIDS, and he was banging all of these women and didn't tell any of them that he had AIDS, and a lot of them got infected. He got life in prison.
Right. I remember hearing about that. They called it a horseshoe, but it was a woman that did it. A woman that had AIDS, that she would go after men and she would infect men.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this was like in the early 90s is when I first heard it, but yeah, I don't know if that term still exists, but yeah, there used to be people that actually had the disease that would go around purposely infecting people. And it's like, I don't know, man. Some people are fucked up on different levels that I will never understand, nor do I want to understand,
Yeah. Kyle wants to know, would we ever consider doing a watch along on Patreon?
Sure.
I'd love to do it.
Me and Joe did one a few weeks ago with Raw, completely on happenstance because we had a really late Frankie Gus, and we started watching Raw, making fun of the whole fucking thing. It's cocking.
Right.
But yeah, no, we should totally do one.
Yeah.
At least random here and there,
Yeah. And we wouldn't have to worry about any copyright flags because we're not monetizing or anything like the show. So, yeah, we'll set one up. Yeah.
We could do it in Discord and people can just hang out in Discord and watch it along with us, but then we're not actually broadcasting it through YouTube.
Yeah, we could do that too. Sure. Maybe we'll do that for the next episode or the one after. We'll do it during the month of May. Absolutely. So we'll Mish and I will talk to each other and come up with a couple of ideas, suggestions. And then I guess we'll have everybody vote on which one, what they want to see us, watch along, and we'll do it. Sounds like fun. Do I plan on finding someone to cut my hair before barbershops reopen? Honestly, a good friend of mine has been cutting my hair for the last 25 years. I go to his house, and I actually was going to go to his house Friday and have him cut my hair, but I got stuck in my office, so I didn't have it done. Hey, Mish, let me ask you honestly, and I wouldn't be offended. You be straight up with me. You got a friend, lives by himself, and he's home.
Yeah.
He's home, and he lives in your neighborhood, and you talk to him, and he's like, "Come over, I'll cut your hair." You have a problem with that?
Well, I don't cut my hair very much anyways.
Right, but if you did, like if I told you seriously, I'm going over to my friend's house tomorrow. He lives by himself.
No,
He's going to cut
probably
my
not.
hair.
Even when I had short hair when I was working for different corporations and stuff like that, I was a real, like, if it's just a trim long hair, I'll let anybody do that.
No, I don't mean
Because it's,
the physical.
No,
I
no,
mean
no, I
the fact of COVID.
well, I mean, I guess it depends on the friend. I mean, if your friend wearing masks and trying to be clean and stuff like that, if you know them and they're like not so very, if they're not hygienic to you on the level that you would like them to be, maybe pass it out. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the thing with the barbershops and everything. Even if the number of people infected is low, you don't know who these people are. You don't know what they do every day. At least, if you go into someone that's a relative or someone that if that person's truly a friend, that person will tell you if that person's been home for the last week or two, or if that person's actually been careless. So, I could see friends or family, not in droves, but, one-on-one, things like that. But let's see, would I ever consider doing a video tour of my podcasting area? Yeah, I'm going to be messing around with my GoPro soon. It's just doing 4 different jobs right now, 3 of them, albeit, small. It's been eating up a lot of the days, so I'm going to definitely work on that. You're not really missing too much because I put photos before. Do we think many places like schools, sporting events, and retail stores will require everyone to wear masks? Yeah, I think everybody's going to have to wear masks. I think you would want them
This
to
is
wear
not
masks.
going away. This isn't just like a fad or a trend. This is something that is going to outlast the virus.
Yeah.
I think when COVID is finally gone, I think you're still going to see people walking around with masks.
Yeah. If I go someplace where it seems like there's an awful lot of people, I'll probably wear a mask, even if it's not required
like if you're going
anymore.
to sporting events, like I'm saying, if you're going to concerts, sporting events, I would not be surprised to still see people after COVID wearing masks anyways.
I mentioned this Friday. When you saw those people partying spring break in Florida, I don't think people who got infected while they were on the beach. I think when they went to these public bathrooms that are on the beach, I think because they're indoors, there must have been germ heaven over there. So I know if I still go to Mohegan Sun the end of May, I am not. If I have to take a leak, even if I'm gambling and winning, I'm going back to my hotel room. I am not using any community bathroom. If I go to a restaurant, I'm not using a community bath. I'm not taking the chance that even if the bathroom looks spotless, that the person that was in there 5 minutes before me sneezed. Like, how do I know? So, I'm going to take some crazy-ass precautions, even if this virus seems to be long gone. So, your favorite Dark Side of the Ring so far? 2 seasons.
Oh, Benoit.
Yeah.
Benoit was a fucking masterpiece. And I think there was a lot of feels in there, and there was a lot of drudged up memories and the way that I felt about wrestling as a whole. And I think Chris Benoit, Dark Side of the Ring, was definitely those guys' piece de la resistance. So,
Okay. Me, I'll go with the Von Erichs, only because of, just if you wrote that as a movie, I don't think people would believe it to have that many family members die like that. The Benoit was obviously more controversial, but I don't know, for some reason, maybe because the murder-suicide is still fresh, I just found myself enjoying
just Nancy's sister and Benoit's kid meeting up was so heavy, man.
Yeah.
That was a real heavy point during that series, because it was like you're hearing the story from both of their sides. You're hearing the story from people that were involved, and Jericho's narrating it, which is even just more insane. You know, like it was. They worked very hard on that. You could tell.
I wondered if Jericho was gonna choke up a few times. You know,
I bet
that
he
was his
did.
friend.
I bet he did because I mean he came out right out the door with passion. He's like, you know, he was pretty much telling people that if you think I shouldn't do this, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't open up like that unless you have passion behind it, and of course he does. You know,
Yeah.
Chavo Guerrero gave me feels like I mean, yeah, it was a heavy couple of shows. Yeah,
Speaking of Dark Side of the Ring, Paul Bielowski, he says Jimmy Snooker's a bad guy. And he said it was great to see Morocco on the Jimmy Snooker episode. It's ironic in wrestling that the face is a drugged up murderer and the heel is a really good guy. Like Morocco, the heel is such a good guy in real life, and the good guy wrestler is the murderer. Yeah, interesting the way you put that. And he agrees. I think you might feel the same way that Asuka seems to be the MVP for Raw so far with the empty arenas. We're just entertaining across the board.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You think...
She was trained right.
What?
I said she was trained right. She was. I think that's a lot of the problem with some of the talent in WWE, main roster and otherwise, is that they're not really trained right. They're trained to know scripts. They're trained to be face camera. They're not trained for all circumstances, and I think a lot of your international stars are.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Because Andrade is fucking very entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Berto is very entertaining. There's a lot of people that are international stars that are far better suited to this event, this environment than others.
Yeah. Trump's secret gay lover, top 5, or just a list of 5 wrestlers or our 5 favorites that no one seems to ever talk about.
Christian would probably be at the top of my list. He was one of my favorites. Mickie James would be on that list.
Yeah, she definitely deserves that.
She's so valuable to the actual women's system in WWE. It's insane. I would throw Jazz on there, especially her later career. Jazz had a lot to do with the women's system. Not a lot of fanfare. And we're just talking about for WWE, right? Or
It could be anybody. Anybody.
Hayabusa.
Absolutely.
Hayabusa was amazing in WWE.
Yeah.
He was
so tragic.
There's a lot of people that were inspired in deathmatch wrestling based on his matches. Who else? I mean, there's like a lot of personal favorites.
Sure.
Gosh.
Steve Blackman.
Blackman is a good guy too, but
They don't ever mention him, man.
They don't. And Ken Shamrock got passed over. I mean, Ken Shamrock is now in TNA and stuff or Impact. But I mean, for a long time there, it's like he should have been in the company. He should have been in the main company. I don't know why he wasn't. CM Punk. I hate the fact that they haven't opened up the doors to the guy. Maybe he's overtalked. Maybe that's a bad example. Canyon. And the only reason I'll say Canyon is right now there's a documentary series talking about Kenny Omega being bisexual, like at points and stuff like that. They have the examples of people like Nyla Rose, and you have Dark Side of the Ring going through all these great tragedies in wrestling. Yet everybody forgot about Canyon, who was literally banging at the door, lost his career, controversially because he was a gay man. And I think that, in his untimely suicide, because of dealing with the battles of being a gay man in wrestling, because of, his prior mental demons. I don't know why none of the companies ever focused on that. It's almost like he's been a blip in history when you consider the fact that guy was in WWE, he was huge in WCW as Mortis, among other things, like it's like the world forgot. What about Chris Canyon? You know?
I was friendly with him in school. I've told it many times over the years. He went to Malloy or McClancy. No, I think it was Malloy. Yeah, it was Malloy. And I went to prep, and we would have these rivals with the football games. Some of you may remember the basketball player, Kenny Anderson. I actually was friendly with him also. Big rivalries back then. Number one, never ever thought that he was gay at that time. Then again, I don't remember any scenario where
Dude, even in his book, he talked about how when he finally figured out that he was gay, he was young,
yeah.
but he was such a man's man. Like there was constantly women trying to get with him, and he was just not interested. But
Well,
he had that aura about himself that he was a ladies' man and everything else like that, because guys wanted to be him.
Yeah.
You know, because he was that kind of a persona. You know.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one, man. Canyon, the more I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, no dark side of the ring on the guy either. I mean,
Yeah, I think he would be a great dark side of the ring, absolutely. I think Nicole Bass would be a good dark side of the ring also. And I knew her personally too. But the problem with her though is, I don't know like how much of I don't like the stuff going on with her husband. I don't think is like something that people would really, in droves, would tune in for. Canyon, I think people would tune in for, especially
China
if they.
too, right?
Yeah, China, absolutely, absolutely.
China doesn't get talked about a lot anymore either.
Yeah,
I think it's because of the stain that she left on the way out.
yeah.
Although I will say that she was trying to get her life together in the end, and it's very mysterious how she passed. You know.
China's definitely a good one. They definitely need to do one. My God, that handler of hers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten emails from personal family members of China and close friend of hers, and told me the stories of some of the things that were going on behind the scenes, and that would be an ideal dark side of the ring. But Diogo Nobre, who's a greater heel for the public, Snuka or Carol Baskin?
Carol Baskin, sadly.
Really?
Yeah, because the more people are going to recognize Carol Baskin than they will Snuka right now.
Okay.
Even though Snuka's been in our hearts for years and people have known him, I think people don't immediately associate him with the murder. Whereas Carol Baskin, that was kind of what the story was built around.
Yeah. I'm sick of Joe Exotic, not for nothing, man. I nothing against this whole, I stay away from it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's a little annoying. This question, Diogo sent it. I know you read it, so I'll just say it anyway. For our sick enjoyment and for the right donation, would you eat a bat on air?
Oh, fuck yeah. Dude, you wouldn't even have to do it as a donation. I was joking with Joey maybe about last week about this. And I'm like, I would totally eat a bat. I would totally eat a bat because I'm not talking about, all right, I guess I should clarify it. I don't want somebody to grab a rabies bat.
Right. You don't mean like an Ozzy Osbourne, like if it was just a meat and it was cooked?
Right. Like if it was prepared, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there was, and I was even talking about this the other day, there was like a National Geographic where they were showing, these cultures, these South American cultures that would hunt down these bats. They're called like fox bats or something like that. And they weigh 50 plus pounds. Can you imagine how big of a fucking bat these things are? And they take one bat and they get rid of the wings. They scale off the wing and they cut off the head. And it's 50 pounds of meat. I'm like, of course you're going to eat that as a starving tribal culture.
I just put that in perspective. My girl's dog is a Yorkie like this, and he's 16 pounds. That bat is 3 times the size. It's like this.
It's a 50-pound bat, dude.
Wow.
So they get rid of the organs. They get rid of the organs and everything else like that. And you take out the meat. And I saw the way that they prepared it, which was a little like they eat it with grubs and a few other things. I'm like, we don't have to go all completely tribal. But yeah, if there was a way to get a hold of actual bat meat and prepare it, I would totally do that in a fucking heartbeat. But would I just bite into a live animal? No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. And you know the story about Ozzy Osbourne, right? Like
Yeah,
it was
about
not supposed to be. No. See, here's the thing that a lot of people get confused. It wasn't supposed to be a live bat.
right.
Like when he was supposed to get the bat, it was supposed to be a prop bat. Like they had a real bat, but the real bat was for show, and the prop bat was what he was supposed to eat into. At some point, when they gave him the bat, they gave him the real bat, and he bit into the fucker and like ripped off its head or whatever else like that. And that's when he spit it out. But at that time, it was supposed to be a prop the entire time. Like it was supposed to be fucking marzipan or something, marzipan, like European candy. That's what it was supposed to be. It sure wasn't. But needless to say, it launched his ass into history because people always remember that,
Ooh. Any indie wrestler that we follow that would have a legit shot in WWE or AEW? And is Lars ever returning? Lars, I think, is ready to return. I think just WWE doesn't know what to do right now.
Really? The guy's afraid of audiences. Why is he not on TV every
That's
week
true.
right now?
That's true when you think about that. I think he should be the bodyguard for like Gargano or something.
Somebody, man. And as far as indie talent that should be in WWE, that should be working right now, I'm still a huge follower and proponent of Lufisto and Mercedes Martinez and the return of cheerleader Melissa. Like I know I'm talking about just the female roster, but I'm saying any of these girls could walk into WWE and just clean house.
Well, Mercedes Martinez is in NXT, but not on the main roster, though. I think she's being wasted.
Why is she on NXT? That
Right.
girl's got more training and more talent than half the people up on the main roster do.
Yeah.
So that's a bully call to me.
Yeah. Benjamin, the question was people that we follow or follow us on Twitter. That's why we're talking about these people. Lars is already in WWE, so I can't use him. People I follow, most of the people I follow are not really on the indies, but, I personally think Nick Aldis eventually has to be in WWE or AEW.
He's an NWA lifer, man. They're building the company around the guy. He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You think so?
You know what? I could see Thunder Rosa in AEW down the line. I think she would be a big plus to the women's division.
I'm just saying, I see Nick Aldis the same way that I saw AJ Styles back in TNA in 2002.
Good comparison. Sure.
He is the franchise. He's the franchise kid. He's their blue chipper.
Yeah. Jude, if I wrote a book or if we wrote a book, what would it be about?
Well, obviously, it would be about the time doing the shows and some of the stories and wrestling and the way that we see it and the way it's grown with us. I mean, I don't think we would just immediately talk about our lives unless they had something to do surrounding the shows.
Right, right. Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about colors and water conservation if that's what you're asking.
I would do that. I would either do that or I would write all the stories growing up and all the crazy shit, just things I experienced. So like a little memoir or something like that. I don't think I would ever be able to write it, though. I don't have the patience to do that. But Andrew 914, who is wrestling's moliest mole, Todd Gordon and Brian Wittenstein? I know you don't know Brian all that much, Mish, but Brian Wittenstein used to be Frank Goodman's right-hand, gopher, I would say. And he was only like in his early 20s when he was doing stuff for Frank, but he always wanted to be in wrestling, and he got a job for TNA. In TNA, and he ended up being a mole for TNA for like other companies. Anybody wants to see? I was friendly with him personally, and then he disappeared. He went into business and he was out of there. But Todd Gordon by far was the bigger mole. Todd Gordon was trying to get people to go to WCW, and he ended up exiting ECW. Todd Gordon, by far, bigger mole.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah,
In
Winstein.
2020.
Yeah, Winstein I haven't talked to in years. I hope he's doing well. It would be weird now because I realize now when I knew him when he was 21 or 22, and now he'd be pushing 40.
In 2020, would
Yeah.
you say that role has gone over to Dave Meltzer?
Um, as far as
Especially
a
with his connection
mole,
to AEW? Oh,
yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The funny thing about him is he doesn't hide it. You know what I mean? Like he just throws that
Oh,
out
he
there.
does. Bischoff made a brilliant point about Dave Meltzer a few weeks back, where he said it's amazing because you can see Dave's allegiances, because when Eric Bischoff was running in WCW, Dave would constantly expose how much money and what kind of contracts all the wrestlers were making, even when he really didn't want them to. And obviously at a time where during the Monday Night Wars, you really didn't want to know how much money everybody else is making because it would give the other company an advantage. And it's funny that when it comes to AEW, he doesn't reveal one bit of information,
Yeah.
but he knows.
Yeah. He won't even say the last buy rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got like 4 questions left.
Sure.
Tommy Pakeshi. He remembers me saying many times the last few years how a major crisis or tragedy would be the only way to bring the country together. Are we seeing that with the pandemic? In a lot of ways. I think these Trump checks hurt that unity, because once people's bills are being paid and they have money in their pocket, and it's not. See, the thing is that there were a lot of people who weren't working before. I mean, I joked about it the other day. There are some people on social media that you're going to realize once things get back to some new norm, and you're going to realize that these same people are just doing what they did before. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who give this aura that they work and do these things, and at the end of the day, you'll realize that their social media footprint is going to be identical to what it is right now. But when you don't have anything and everything's going on, our core, caring comes out. But the more people get a couple of bucks in their pocket, things are, a little bit under control right now. It gets easier to go back to, you see with the media, you see people on the left, you see the stuff with Trump. It's just, there's some, social media will never be a melting pot of love. It will always be toxic.
If I think we were close to really unifying a lot of people, but the cracks in the unification came from the failure of the government,
Yeah.
the failure of our president, and it
Yeah.
came from the failure of our youth following the protocol.
Yeah.
I think if all of these things had gone according to plan, if the young people realized that even though they weren't as susceptible to COVID-19, they should too stay inside and not go have spring break, I think people would have felt better about it. If the government was paying out what they said they were, if the government was supplying us with tests, if the government was helping supply with masks and hand sanitizer and everything else, if our government was on top of things like they pretended or they told us they were just to shut us up, I think people would be in a lot better of a place right now. Universally, I think we would have been in a lot better place.
Nobody wants to lead by example. It's a lot easier to criticize others and to tweet, like I say it all the time.
Don't get me wrong. People would have still been bitching about something.
Sure.
I'm not saying that we're gonna stop being petty about shit, but at the same time, I think overall this virus, if it was handled better, I think people would have taken this a lot better.
Yeah.
We would still be grumbling about businesses, and we would still be grumbling about not going outside, but I don't think it would have been such an issue where we're literally having a political civil war right now between different states in our country.
You know what? If we didn't have an election this year, I think things would have been better because I think people are starting to realize, like, wait a minute, we don't want Trump in office. So the only way we have a shot of getting him out of office is we have to put negative on him and blame this on him and blame certain things. He definitely deserves some criticism. Huh?
Have you looked at Joe Biden? Joe Biden supposedly touching, what was it, like those 6 different kids or some shit like that?
Oh yeah,
that's
no,
coming out?
I say it all the time. When is he going to announce his 2 vice presidents? You know, he's just he's done.
We
He's
need
right.
somebody that's not either. That's what I think we need. I think we really need somebody that's not a part of the Republican Party and not part of the Democrat Party. I think we need a pure fucking centrist. That's what we really need. Somebody that's going to keep a level head. Although I'm just dreaming because I can't think of one candidate that fills that quota. So.
I said this last Sunday on Patreon. I'll say it again now. People think I'm nuts. Think again. There are a lot of Democrats out there that are hoping Joe Biden, maybe not die, but Joe Biden gets like a heart attack or a stroke or something. Some reason to get someone else in there to run for president. There's no chance. There's just no chance. The first time they do a debate, he can't keep looking down on his notes. You see every interview he does, he's in his basement and he's got notes. And you see he loses his train of thought and he looks down at cheat notes and tries to regain his train of thought. As much as people may hate Trump, you know, do you want somebody who doesn't? No, I don't
want either of them.
Yeah,
I don't want
no,
either of
them.
them.
Sure. Yeah. Aaron, he put this whole "Who Wants to Be a Millionaire" thing together.
Yeah.
Aaron, I hate to ruin this for you, but 2 pieces of advice: when you want to do trivia questions for any shows, you shouldn't do them in advance because we can Google the answers. Now, I usually don't Google the answers because I like to test my memory. Doing a history show and doing it for 2+ years and doing tons of research, almost every question you asked, I know the answer. I don't even have to look it up. One I'm not sure with, but, you know, he did this whole Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he put a lot of effort into it. So I guess he wants me to be the one answering the questions. I get 2 lifelines. I only need 1. I could ask you, Mish, for help, or I could ask people that are live. So I will go through these, and like I said, you know, I haven't looked up the answers. I'm pretty sure I got 4 or 5 of the 5 right, but I'll probably ask Mish and those live to help me with one of these answers. But for $1,000 in a 1995 Royal Rumble, who was number 30? Lex Luger, Crush, Adam Bomb, or King Kong Bundy? If I remember correctly, it was Crush. I watched the 1995 Royal Rumble not too long ago. I'm pretty sure it's Crush. Unfortunately, we're not going to Google the answers now to see if I'm right or wrong, but I'm pretty certain it was Crush. It wasn't Lex Luger. It definitely wasn't Bundy, and I don't remember Adam Bomb coming out at number 30. So I'm going to go with Crush. Maybe someone in the chat wants to look it up to make sure I'm right. The $8,000 question in the 1994 Royal Rumble match, number 25 did not come out. Who did not come out? Kamala, Ludwig Borger, Bastion Booger, or the 1-2-3 Kid? That one I think I'm going to need help with. I don't recall who it was. Kamala, I don't recall any controversy with Kamala. Ludwig Borg, I would think it would have to do with an injury. Bastion Booger, I kind of lean to. You remember this one, Mish? Or chat?
Yeah.
You remember this one?
Yeah, Bastion Booger was the one that couldn't come out.
Okay, all right. So we'll go with Bastion Booger. We'll find out. Maybe the chat will look it up to see if we're right. Yeah, because the 1-2-3 Kid, I don't recall him ever missing a Royal Rumble. Usually, like when I remember, was it the 91 or the 90 Royal Rumble where like number 30's like buzzer came off and nobody came out? So those you usually remember. So yeah, so we'll go with Bastion Booger. The next one, the next two, unfortunately, Aaron, they're easy. $32,000 question. Undertaker entered the 1993 Royal Rumble at number 15, lasting 4 minutes, 14 seconds before being eliminated by an 8-foot monster, Giant Gonzalez. How many wrestlers did he eliminate? 2, 3, 4, or 5? It was 4. I remember it clearly. He eliminated Genichiro Tenryu. He eliminated 2 guys at the same time. I can't remember the 2 right now. But he eliminated 4. And I remember after he eliminated 2 guys at the same time, he was almost immediately eliminated right after by Giant Gonzalez. So the answer is 4. And I'm pretty certain that I'm right on that one. And the last one for $250,000, which wrestler was not a participant in the 1991 Royal Rumble, cannot choose Randy Savage, as he was not a participant going in the match, but just forfeited. Choices are Jake the Snake Roberts, Texas Tornado, Shane Douglas, or the Barbarian. Well, Shane Douglas, I do remember because I followed his career closely. Texas Tornado, he was in it because that was one of the last times we really got to see him, you know, as far as a big event like that. Jake the Snake Roberts, I, for some reason, remember him being in that Rumble. So I'm going to go with the Barbarian. And I'm pretty certain that I'm right. Oh, there is another question. The $1 million question. And Aaron, this is the easiest one of them all. Hulk Hogan won the WWE Championship, WWF, by the way, against the Iron Sheik, January 23rd, 1984. I was there. How many days did his title reign last? A, 2,803, B, 1027, C, 1,474, or D, 2,135. The answer is C, 1,474. I did not remember the number of days, but I do remember that it was shortly after the 4-year anniversary of him holding that title. He won the title in January of 84, and he lost it February of 87. So that would be almost 4 years, slightly over. So 365 times 4. 365 times 2 is 730. Times 2 is 1460. So it's the 1400. So now chat site, Undertaker eliminated 4. He eliminated Genichiro Tenryu, and he eliminated 2 other people, if I remember correctly. And then he got eliminated by Giant Gonzalez. I'm pretty sure that's right. Maybe it is wrong. I don't know. David Peralta, today is the 25th anniversary of the movie Friday, starring Ice Cube. You ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Favorite moments from that film?
Well, clearly when he got knocked the fuck out.
Zeus?
Oh, yeah. Right. Don't you remember that when Chris jumped in his face afterwards while he's staring up this? Yeah, it was great, man. It was a great line. I mean, they had a bunch of lines that still fucking play, like "Bye, Felicia," and Felicia was a crack whore or whatever the fuck she was. Yeah. There was a lot. And then the dad, fucking
John
shitting. Yeah. It was good comedic timing all around.
For me, Chris Tucker. When that movie came out, I mean, this was only a couple of years after New Jack City. So that, like, the black culture and to see that and just all the shit that was going down. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to take credit for this, but something about that movie that always stuck with me that I have never, ever seen anybody write about online. I'm not saying that it has to do with anything, but I, for me, am convinced that Eddie Guerrero, when they did Los Guerreros, lying, cheating, and stealing, when him and Chavito were in the cars, I always thought that Eddie Guerrero or Chavo or somebody got the idea from the movie Friday. Because when Chris Tucker is sitting in the back seat and he's smoking angel dust, and you got the 2 Latinos in the front in the driver's seat, and Chris Tucker even says to one of them, he's like, yo, essay. And they're in the car that goes up and down with the hydraulics and everything. And I look at those two Latino guys, and one of them saying essay, and just the overall way the car was and everything. I always thought that Los Guerreros, that idea came from that scene in Friday. I don't think anybody's ever said that.
I think it was also commonplace that a lot of Latino people liked modifying their cars, though, too, outside of that movie. So,
yeah, good movie, man. Good movie. They're supposed to come out with a new one.
Yeah,
it's on ice.
I
was disappointed when Chris Tucker refused to come back for the next one at that time.
I think I would like to see another Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker movie. That's what I want to see. Another Rush Hour. That's just me. I thought they were great together. I mean, all three of those movies, it's one of the rare few movies where you can have sequels that were just as good as the original.
Yeah.
So,
Jackie Chan, I haven't seen him in a while.
He's old. Old.
Yeah.
His age is catching up to him. Like I said, I know it's not going to happen. And if he did a movie like that, I don't know if he would even, because that's the special thing about Jackie Chan is he did a lot of his own stunts. He did majority of his own stunts, but
was Friday Chris Tucker's debut? I think that might have been his movie debut.
I don't honestly know. He might have been in something earlier than that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll tell you right now in a second.
Bernie Mac, to see him with hair, just something about Bernie Mac in that film, seeing him, looking at it now is fucking funny. But there's so many scenes in that movie that is funny, man. Yeah, Jeffrey Collins. Yeah, I remember that. How you lose your job on your day off? It's just funny, man. That movie.
His first movie, Meteor Man.
Oh yeah.
He did The Meteor Man, and then he did House Party 3.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever. And then he did a movie called Panther, and then he did Friday. Friday was his big. Yeah,
maybe that was his breakout. Yeah, but believe it or not,
that was his original debut on TV.
Okay,
was hanging out with Mr. Cooper in 1992.
Okay, that movie when that comes on once in a while, for me, Chris Tucker is like more than Ice Cube. For me, like I look forward to Chris Tucker's role in there. I wish Zeus had a bigger role, but man, that was a good movie. Still holds up.
Yeah,
still holds up.
Does.
Yeah. Last but not least, Goody Dayhawk. Thank you very much, my friend. He thinks that I should be a pastor, like Joel Osteen, like inspiration and thing like that. No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm, any more special than anybody out there. I just have the privilege of doing shows and, you see a little extension of myself and, but I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, I'm already looking forward to 20,000 on YouTube. I'd love to get 20,000 by the end of the year. I think that's definitely doable. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's some podcasters out there that do video that I don't think are too thrilled that I'm getting that big of an audience that quickly. I think some podcasters are concerned that I might pull. Let's face it, you do make a little bit of bucks on YouTube. It's very, very small. You don't know what it's like, everybody. I'll give a little reveal right now. I put up a clip not too long ago, a single clip, got a pretty decent response to it. And I go click and see the revenue, and I got $1.16. $1.16. So it's not what everybody thinks it is, but still, and especially when it gets to super chats and everything. That's why I'm gonna start blowing these things up indoors. I got these canyon confetti things, and next week I got a balloon machine coming, and we'll just try to make it as fun as possible. But I'm enjoying it. He wants to ask you your opinion. What is your opinion of what Hulk Hogan said, that we don't need a vaccine, but pray to Jesus to cure us?
I'm an atheist. What do you think I'm going to say? Look, I mean, I think it's adorable that he believes that the Sky Genie is going to come down and fix COVID, because there's actually, unfortunately, a lot of religious people that believe that this is the plague of revelations. I I don't know how you even contest that.
Yeah.
How do you bring logic to an illogical thought? So
Yeah. I'm so pissed, man. He brought up Tamina question. You think she'll ever be women's champion in a lifetime? I downloaded a
was.
video. I downloaded a
She
video
was.
for you. Did you see the video,
Yeah.
Tamina? She told everybody to
No.
go fuck themselves.
Oh yeah. I fucking love that with the little rainbow clouds and the thunder clouds. It's adorable.
I have it in my other computer. I wanted to play it here as a little treat for you tonight. I forgot to put it in this computer.
Oh
So-
yeah, Tamina's great.
You think?
I'm a fan.
I think she might have a shot getting it.
Yeah, they're really giving her kind of a push, which is kind of wild. I haven't talked about it a little bit, and I know Joey wanted to talk about it with me a couple times now because he wants to know, do I feel like Tamina's going to get that? And I kind of balk on it. And I think the reason I'm trying to be quiet about it, and I know this is going to sound maybe this will sound arrogant or whatever else like that, because if I start cheering for her publicly, she's not going to win. Because WWE doesn't like us so much that sometimes it feels like whatever we like, they do the exact opposite of. And so if Tamina's in a position where she can actually become champion, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So
See, I could see Bailey and Sasha Banks feuding, but not for a title. Because if they feud not for a title, then they could split victories. So maybe Tamina wins the briefcase and then cashes it in and beats Bailey for it. Or maybe Sasha wins it and down the line Tamina cashes in and gets it. But
if people don't understand why I like Tamina, you really have to go and study her promo work more than anything. She has probably some of the best, and by best, I mean absolutely worst promos out there. And it's fantastic. She is so many laughs. She is so entertaining, whether it's intended or unintended or what. She is absolutely entertaining in all the wrong possible ways, which kind of makes her a gem to me. Because I don't mind laughing at the product sometimes and having the product laugh right back at me.
that promo she did was funny, man. When she told everybody
Yeah.
to fuck themselves, I thought that was hilarious. I liked it.
It was. It is.
Yeah. Joe Punches, couple of rapid fires. What's scarier to think might happen to you as you get older? Mistaking a shit for a fart while driving, or saying the wrong name during mid-coitus? I don't know what that means.
Yes. Coitus. Coitus is sex.
Oh, okay. I never heard that word before.
Shit while driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because first off, you're not talking about the specifications. Like, is the next pull off the road? Is the next what do they call that? The
Rest area.
rest stop 50 miles away? 'Cause if it is, that's gonna be a long 50 miles.
Yeah, for me, it would be that too. Yeah. Brunchweiger on a cracker, mountain oysters, or head cheese. Worse for each of us to want to eat. And after choosing it, dares us to eat it on a future episode of Breakfast Soup. Which is the worst for you? Head cheese, mountain oysters, or Brunchweiger on a cracker?
It's not mountain oysters. What he meant to say is Rocky Mountain oysters.
Okay.
And I've had Limburger on crackers. That doesn't bother me. I was raised eating head cheese. My grandfather loved head cheese, so I can eat that no fucking problem. Rocky Mountain oysters, I've never had one. And I mean, I guess by process of elimination, that would be the worst. But since they're deep fried and everything else like that, I don't think it would bother me either. You got to realize I have no fear when it comes to food. I really don't. The only one that I don't like is that stupid fish that's popular, that puffer fish, that poisonous fish, where 2 out of 10 people die when they eat it. You know, I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to eat something and fucking drop dead on the table. But bizarre food, insects and snakes, and doesn't bother me. Fucking gator I've had, like it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I've eaten live squid, DT, like still wriggling in the. Yeah, I cracked it open and it had purple brains. It was great. You can only eat one at a time, though. But yeah, that shit doesn't bother me. I have no problem being a little savage when it comes to food.
Me, I'll go with the oysters too. Head cheese, I had it once. I didn't like it, but the gelatin part I didn't like, but the ingredients in there aren't that bad.
You know what they are? Pork parts and ham part or pig.
Yeah, but it's actually got some taste to it. I said once in a while I used to still eat liverwurst. To me, I put liverwurst in the same category.
We would put the head cheese on rye bread, seeded rye bread with some Philly cream cheese. That's how he ate it all the time. Yeah.
Okay. The day that Joe Punches introduces himself to both of us, what's one thing we hope to take away from our first visit?
Punch. Your name is Joe Punches. You better punch me in the arm. So
I definitely have to give him 10 punches in the arm. So
you can't walk around the name like Joe Punches.
Yeah, he's got it. So all right, before we go, I didn't intend on waiting till the end for this, and to be honest with you, I actually forgot about it. But I know people will complain if we don't mention it. Now, again, we don't need to get into the whole scenario. You all know about it right now, about Velveteen Dream, about the accusations being put online. I don't know how much you talked about it so far on your shows, but Friday I got into this call that he did, this thing.
What school do you go to?
Mm-hmm.
What school do you go to?
And it blew me away to have that many people get in an uproar because they immediately thought because he asked someone where they went to school that he is, it has to be somebody underage. Not thinking that college people may go to school in this and that, but something else surfaced. I know you had it. Someone had sent it to me, and what I did was I reversed the video. And what it is the guy or kid that was going around online and saying he had all his proof and everything like that. And he's the one that apparently told that girl online, yup, I filed a report. He got caught being in a message board. I don't know if you saw that group chat where it's called fuck ends, the N-word. And something that I found fascinating about it. And this kid pulled his social media completely. And I saw some people online that are like, well, the authorities probably told them to do that. I think these young people realized that they don't know a fucking thing about forensics and social media and, blackmailing and how much trouble they could get into. I don't know your views on it, but I don't think Velveteen Dream did anything wrong. There is no proof of anything online. There are no screenshots, no videos, no nothing of him asking anybody that they were underage or anything like that. What I am left with, and I have the video here, what I'm left with is that Velveteen Dream claimed to have opened up his chats on Snapchat or Instagram for a little while the other day. And somebody claimed that this person who was 17 and two of his friends who was 16 and 15, that Velveteen Dream started getting sexual with them, asking for photos and this and that. So before I play the second video that you and I could dissect, I could be way off on this, but I'm an older guy and I'm a tech guy, and something that really I took notice with after the second video came out. All right. And I don't even know, Mitch, if you even know what I'm about to say, but I want everybody, again, just pay, including you, Mish, pay attention to this video that you're looking at right now.
What school do you go to?
All right, you see that?
No, because it's behind the bar.
It's behind the bar.
Bar, our splitter between us on
Oh,
screen.
okay. Let me see. Okay, there we go. All right, I see it. All right, so it's got to go over here. Okay, here we go.
What school do you go to?
Okay, I'm pausing it. You see anything wrong with this screenshot?
No, what's up?
Okay. Have you ever been on Snapchat?
No, I don't do
Okay,
Snapchat.
that's all right. Have you ever been on Instagram?
Yeah.
All right. Been on other chats?
Sure.
Okay. Why do we see Velveteen Dream's profile and photo? Wouldn't the person who is hosting the call, wouldn't you see on the left like if you're in a chat right now, you would see your photo on the left. Your conversations are usually on the left side of the conversation. It's your phone. You send a text message to somebody right now. All of your conversations are on the left. The person who responds back to you is the one on the right. So that screenshot that you see right now, what school did you go to? That is the screenshot of what Velveteen Dream would see on his phone. So no, let me go a little further. So you see that right now. You see Velveteen.
Well, no. Let me pause you because what you just said is factually incorrect. The name on the left, and I could prove it.
I can't see
shit. Well, anyways, the person that I'm talking to is on the left, and I'm on the right.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm wrong with there. All right. Maybe Snapchat is a little different, but here's the thing. What I don't understand is that your comments are not the ones that are usually in the boxes.
Mine are on my phone. I use a Samsung Galaxy S7. I use Cricket service.
Right.
But
yours are in the boxes. But why is the opposite person's in the boxes? You see how the other you see the where it says
No. It's a theme that the kid has set up. If you pay really close attention, you can actually see that they're both in boxes. There is a very, very, very faint outline around what Dream is saying you can see, but you have to really pay attention. But it's the way that this kid has his theme set up.
All right.
Which is why he came out with the second video in order to prove that it wasn't a Photoshop, because there was a lot of people that initially said, hey, this kid is Photoshopping this. And that's when he went through and he did it backwards and everything else to show people that it wasn't a Photoshop, that it was a live receipt. But if you pay close attention, you can see the boxes around Velveteen Dream's response.
All right. So then that part of it is void, but it still doesn't change my mind because, again, if these people have all this proof that they filed reports and everything like that, how do you screenshot this entire conversation, but you don't screenshot none of the three? Screenshot anything where he's asking for nudes or showing nudes or knew that they were.
I have the pictures of the nudes and the conversation that went.
Right. But here's the thing. If you look at this conversation right here, and I'm going to pull it up right now, I did it backwards because, again, this person who put this footage up, he did it in reverse. He was showing the end of the conversation and going backwards. And if you
most messages start from the last thing that you said. They don't start at the first thing.
And you scroll up. So I reversed the video so we could see the entire conversation. Now, this is the person who claims that Velveteen Dream sent him nudes and requested it back, okay? Now, if you look at this conversation, all right, it opens up, Dream asks, what sport do you play? And the kid says, hockey. He says to the kid, you look, he doesn't know the person's age yet. He says, you look kind of jacked. And the person says, I'm a noodle. And then he says, yeah, but I'm working on it. Then if this is Dream, says, what's your age? 16. Okay. So now the conversation continues. what do you want to do career-wise? All right, so the conversation continues. Honestly, Dream, I want to get into commentating. I always have this little itch to become a wrestler too. Like being able to entertain someone is just something I would love to do. So he asked the kid, what do you look like? The 16-year-old. Nothing sexual, but he said, you know, this is a wrestler, and he's talking to wrestling fans, and he just said, what do you want to do? And he says, commentate. So Dream says, what do you look like? So that's the photo that he sends to Dream. I don't see Dream saying anything sexual. He says, where are you from? Kid says, Ontario, Canada. So what do you want to do after school, career-wise? So I work at a sports store called Sports Company. I'm also a sales associate there. Dream says, so you want to be in sales for the rest of your life? So they're talking about, you know, the kid wanting to be a commentator. So he wants advice. How do we be a commentator? He says, send a portfolio. And he says, of me to you? He says, yeah, if you're a good idea, if you're good, I'd vouch for you. As far as commentating, all right? Nothing about photos. If you have a portfolio about your commentating, and now the kid says, I have no experience yet. So Dream says life is about networking. Do you have a physique? You know, he's just basically talking about the look as far as being on TV. You see what a kid says to be on TV? Now, if this was sexual in nature, why would Dream like immediately focus about TV?
Why? If this wasn't sexual in nature, why would he drop him a dick pic?
I don't think he dropped him a dick pic because why is the okay? Let's continue this conversation here. Okay.
He did drop him a dick pic.
No. Let me finish. If you look at this conversation, Dream is saying to him that you got to look aesthetic on TV.
No, all right. Let's read between the lines real quick because you're playing this out.
All right. Well, listen. Let me go to the end of it. Let me just go to the end of it.
Talking about has been about sales, and I don't have experience, but he's like, yeah, but it's about your look. It's about your aesthetic. What about your physique? He keeps going back to the kid's body, DT. Come on.
Right, but let me just finish to the end. He goes and then says, WWE puts young and attractive people on TV. If you're interested in a job when you're 18, it's a possibility. And then the kid says, is that when you got hired? I know you're young. And he says, yeah, I got hired at 18. And the kid says, that's insane. I remember watching this past summer. And he says, thank you. And this conversation goes to, wait, let me just go.
You just skipped past it.
No. I hit a different screen. I'll get into the end. But,
okay.
Yeah, we're getting to the end. You can see the right. Okay, hold on.
And
all right.
What's your physique look like now? Man, I'll have time to get into shape. You will have time to get into shape. He goes back to the kid's physique.
Right, but he never. Where's the dick pic? Where is the screenshot of him sending the pic or asking for one? Why does the conversation cut off there? That's the end of the conversation.
No, that's just where he stopped it.
Right. Why would you, if you have proof and he sent them the pic, why would you screenshot everything but that?
But he already had the proof. He already showed the proof. He was just showing that he wasn't. The thing that you're looking at, you're looking at it on a different scale.
The screenshot was a photo. The screenshot wasn't the screenshot of Dream sending him the photo.
Yes, there was actual dialogue around it. Yes, sir.
No, but
absolutely.
Why was it edited off of here?
Because when this video came out, this wasn't to go back to the Velveteen Dream pic. When he put this up, his actual post for this was a rebuttal against people saying that the initial Dream pic was a Photoshop. And they said that this kid didn't talk to him. He had no collaboration with them. And then this kid put it on his Twitter for about a minute, 2 minutes, because it fucking went wildfire real fast, and showed himself scrolling through it as fast as possible.
I don't buy it.
That's what it was.
I don't buy it. It's just conveniently everything. There's nothing in this conversation. Why would you?
Right now, this guy is not going to be here anymore, DT. Look, it's not official yet.
I don't buy it.
There are, it doesn't matter. It's enough to get WWE behind
this.
Yeah.
WWE could still let him go because of this, but I don't buy it. Why would somebody post a clip of him saying, "What school do you go to?" There's nothing controversial about that.
There's more to it, though. Supposedly there's 2 other kids, too.
Right, but how come? Why would you? But my point is this: if you have concrete proof, why would your decision be post an audio that says what school do you go to, which leads to nothing, and then you post this entire conversation, and there's not one word in that conversation that says anything sexual in nature or requesting or offering to give anything? Why would you not?
After he supposedly contacted his lawyer, and after he
Come
contacted
on. This happened at 4 o'clock in the morning, and in 3-4 hours they got lawyers. This is just bullshit, man. I think these were teenagers and didn't realize how deep this was going to get. And I think that once they realized that, okay, this, not only could they get into some serious trouble over this, but the kid got exposed being in a message board or chat exposing ends, the same night. It doesn't pass the smell test to me.
Yeah, it absolutely does. There's, like I said, even in this conversation alone, even after he knows that the kid is 16, he's still asking about his body. Sorry. I mean, look, you want to put 2 and 2 together. That's what I see. I know how the flirt game works, at least from back in my day.
Yeah, but
and if you're talking to a girl, you're gonna and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm 21." You're gonna continue asking her about her body because she's legal of age, and that's who you're going after. He's treating this kid like he's legal of age, and he's not.
Mish, the part with the phone with the pic, is that a screenshot or is that a video?
No, that was a screenshot.
Why is it not?
It was a screenshot. I didn't see the actual. I don't know. You can't.
You see what I'm saying? To me, that's Photoshop.
That's not concrete proof. Well, that's what this video was to prove, that it wasn't Photoshop.
Right.
So,
but you have video of everything else, but the dick pic is a screenshot. It's not video.
Dude, there's been 10s, 20s, 30,000 people that have seen that picture and seen that initial. Every single website that's putting it up, the picture of Dream with the clown over his penis, the clown head over it.
No, the picture itself is real. What I'm saying is that they took that picture and photoshopped it to make it look like Dream sent it to this kid. And I think that is bullshit, because when you say, remember this is probably the most important thing. That morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, the original posts on Reddit were, we don't know if this was Dream or if he was hacked. A couple of hours later, Dream goes public and what?
Right.
Dream goes public. Good.
No, I'm saying that was the initial response to it. You're right.
Right. But the thing is that later on, Dream came out and said, no, I was hacked. So why did that go from, we don't know if it was him or he got hacked, and then Dream says, yeah, I was hacked, and then an hour later, a report was filed. Yup, a report was filed. You see what I'm saying? Like, why? It's almost like, an hour later, they got their answer. They didn't know if it was hacked or not. Dream comes out and says, no, that wasn't me. I got hacked. But then they say, I filed a report. I find that too.
Dream to come out and say, oh, yeah, you guys got me. I was
trying to. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, if you really were not sure that if it was him or not, how do you go in 5 hours from, we don't know if it was him, we don't know if he got hacked, to, I filed a report, yup, he's busted, he's done?
Because the kid came out and started doubling down and everything else like that.
Yeah, but we doubled down. He doubled down with an audio clip that says, what school do you go to? And then he doubled down with a video talking about how WWE hires people aesthetic and nice looking, and that you have to build yourself up. But he somehow doesn't have...
If you're talking to a 16-year-old about their body, you're kind of a fucking creep anyways. I don't care if it's about wrestling or whatever. And if he stopped his conversation at, oh, you're only 16, yeah, you know what? Come back to me and talk to me when you're 18.
Okay.
And he ended the conversation there, it would have been fine. But he keeps going into the physique and his body and stuff. Look, like I said, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. I'm not a private investigator.
No, I agree with you there. I think that conversation should have been cut off immediately.
Fucking creepy, dude. It doesn't matter. Look, even if you want to believe that the dick pic was fake, which most people know that it isn't, and even if you don't want to believe the voice clip that he put up, whatever. If you just look at the context of the conversation, there's a point in the conversation where it should have stopped, and he still continued to talk to a 16-year-old about his body.
Right, but he's got video of this. He's got video and audio of the school thing, but the dick pic is just a screenshot.
I think there's absolutely more information that hasn't been released that this kid probably cannot release. Yeah. I really do. I don't think that everything we've seen all the evidence. I don't believe that at all.
I'm not buying.
I mean,
maybe I just can't
say that all the evidence, but why? It's not that hard to believe that we
just doesn't pass this. If this was one whole video screenshot and it led to the fact that it cuts off before there's any request or anything sent, and all it is a screenshot, a freeze, instead of the video, the convo that leads to it, and the fact that somebody thinks that by posting an audio that says, what school do you go to, is people in their mind think that, oh my God, how could you ask a question like that? It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that you have audio and video, and when you read and look at it, there's nothing sexual in nature. I understand some people out there, of course, I didn't see it that way.
I know. I'm just saying, agree to disagree. I think that if you're talking to 16-year-olds who that are 16-year-olds and supposedly, and once again, this is where I think that there's still more evidence. You supposedly talked to 2 other kids. Supposedly one of the kids was 17 and the other kid was 15. So if that information ever comes to light, I mean, I really do believe that there's more evidence that we don't know.
Well, let me tell you this. You look online as far as where this kid lives. It's going to be very interesting to see if there's any police report filed. Wasn't one filed in Florida.
I don't even know what the police are doing right now, though, GT.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, when they said report has been filed, yup. That's an awfully dramatic change from, we don't know if he's hacked. We don't know if this is real or if he was hacked. Then he says, I was hacked. And then that's,
random people. You're talking about the speculative response from random people as opposed to the difference of the actual kid saying
in 6 hours. In 6 hours, all that happened, including a report being filed.
How long does it take for it to call up a police officer? Yeah.
I don't buy it, man. I got this. I'm telling you, it cuts off.
I would hope that you're right, but I'm not surprised by anything in this world.
I tell you, man, I give you a hell of a lot of credit because you and I were convinced that Enzo was innocent.
Oh,
and we ended up being right.
Well, we pulled that apart because we started searching up the actual girl. We started seeing all the things that she was done, that she did. We found out that she had a previous boyfriend that she pulled the exact same shit on, and the other guy came out completely innocent. And then as time went on, more evidence came forward when her best friend came on video on YouTube and said, here's the receipts. She's full of shit. Yeah. I don't want no part of the legal case. That's what I'm saying. I still think that there's more evidence to come to light. Yeah. And that's my stance right now. I'm not going to condemn the guy. I personally feel that it looks bad on him right now.
Yeah.
And it's not up to the victim. I know for you right now, it's up to the victim. For me, it's up to Velveteen Dream to prove innocence. But obviously that's going to come through when and if court comes to case. But I still believe that there's more evidence that nobody's seen yet.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of to that there's other conversations, other pictures, more to it than what we've seen. You know,
I think we both can agree, though, doing a late night chat at 3:30 in the morning, regardless of age, was probably stupid on the part of Dream.
oh yeah, and I mean, we were talking about social media accounts, wrestlers, and stuff like that. Anyways, that a lot of them have social media accounts that are controlled by WWE, but they also have personal accounts. This is just a prime example of why WWE likes to control their wrestlers' accounts, and it makes sense too. You know, this situation, regardless of the outcome of this situation, Velveteen Dream, I don't think will recover. I think because you look at Enzo, who came out 100% innocent, and not only did the company fire him, they still stick to the guns that she said.
Yeah.
They still fired him under the pretense of sexual assault. Now, yes, people have said it's because Enzo was a problem backstage and there was all these other mounted issues between Enzo and WWE. Fine. But they never once stepped forward and said, we apologize to Enzo and his family for making the wrong call, for firing him under false pretenses. Not fucking once. And people think that Velveteen Dream is going to walk away from a potential pedophile case with no damage.
You see, I look at it like this. I just cannot believe that Dream could be this stupid, that you're chatting with people in the wee hours of the morning. And the minute somebody says they're 16, I agree. Conversation should have been pretty much over at that point. But maybe it's just because I'm thinking as far as how I would react. The minute you know the person you're talking to is underage, I just find it hard to believe that would arouse Dream to the point where he sends a dick pic. You know what I mean? Like, if the age would have never come out and we find out that Dream had no idea that he was underage, that I could buy. But I think the fact that the kid told him he was 16, I just would think that you would be absolutely insane to, once you know someone is 16, absolutely insane to ask for or give a nude pic. That's immediate arrest.
Here's the evidence that didn't come out, though, DT. What was the conversation directly leading up to the pic? Now, here's where I think that the kid probably advanced. Maybe the kid said, I still think you're hot or whatever else like that. And the kid's saying that, and maybe the kid is embarrassed to show that. But I don't doubt that you don't get to that point on an accident. It wasn't like Velveteen just, you're 15, look at my dick. It wasn't like that. This was clearly a conversation, and what you're showing in the video here, what we're seeing in the video, is the casual part of the conversation before it got to anything more physical. And I think that the more physical part of the conversation is what we haven't seen yet.
Now, can we both agree that if nothing ends up happening with this, that it was bullshit? Because if you are in a conversation and you know the person is 16, whether the kid wants to file a report or not, the cops would still arrest him for sending a nude photo through the internet to a minor. That's not based on somebody filing charges or not. Cops would arrest you point blank. So could we both agree that if nothing ever comes out of this, then it was bullshit?
No, because James Ellsworth didn't get arrested.
Yeah, but James Ellsworth claimed the whole time that he didn't send it to a minor. Here on this video, he specifically says 16.
Yeah, well, saying that you didn't send it to a minor with proof that you sent it to a minor doesn't
right,
really
but I don't remember age ever being brought up.
Yeah, she was an underage girl.
Right, but she brought up her age to him and told him is her age? I don't remember that.
I'm not sure,
yeah,
honestly. But yeah, she was underage regardless.
If Dream ended up doing this, man.
I think if anything, the fact that the kid at his age makes it worse,
Boy,
you're right though. I
fucking idiot.
if Dream thought that this kid was like 24 years old and they never clarified the age, and he sent the picture, there is the reasonable doubt that Dream didn't know how old this kid was.
Right.
But if this kid said he was 16 and the progression of the conversation still went sexual, he's done, man.
Yeah. I want everybody, before we leave, I want everybody to understand. If Dream did this, he should be arrested. He should be put in jail. He should be fired from WWE, and his career will be fried for.
Oh, it'll be totally fried.
But me being on social media for 20-something years online and seeing how conversations go and recording things and screenshotting things, when you, in my opinion, when you stop at the exact moment where it leads to where he is fucked, and you still put out the screenshot, but you don't show the video of it leading up to it, that makes it suspect, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know the truth.
To me, was in the main pic, in the initial pic where that shows Dream's penis and stuff like that, it was talked about that there were 2 other girls, that all 3 of them were girls. So I'm not necessarily sure how that correlates.
Well, that's not a girl. That's a guy.
I understand. And by that image, by that conversation, it shows him as a boy. But I'm just saying that there's absolutely things that need to be clarified.
Yeah.
Because in the actual picture of Dream's penis, it talks about there's also a 15-year-old girl and a 17-year-old girl.
Right. Well, if you look at this, sorry for interrupting you. Look at the top.
No. What I'm saying is that's a part that doesn't make sense to me. That's one thing that I've kept looking at. And at first, initially, I thought, well, maybe the boy was trying to be a girl. Like maybe it was one of those scenarios where the kid thought, you know what I mean, without having to say it, like he was just changing his sex. But I don't know. I don't understand why they brought up girls when there was supposedly no girls involved.
Right.
So that one to me is a little like I don't understand how that fits into the picture. But once again, that also leads me to there's definitely parts of this conversation that we haven't seen.
Right. See this one on the top? Caitlin Smith. See, I want Caitlin Smith. Then you go to this one.
Right.
And it's the guy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have it here, but
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm telling you, there's more to it than what we see. There's absolutely more to it because you're talking about 2 different names right there. You know, you obviously see the boy, and then you see Caitlin Smith being the girl. Like, there's more to this than we've seen, and I think that
Jacob
the actual
Schmidt, there it is.
Right, Jacob Schmidt, Caitlin Smith. These are two separate people, 2 separate conversations. I don't know, man. I don't know.
He definitely should not be chatting with. I know people are bored. I know you want to interact with your fans, but yeah, right. I mean, no matter how this ends up, whether he did it or he didn't do it, I agree with you. This was an unforced error on his part. Stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Yeah, you don't. As soon as they tell you that they're 16, thanks, kid. Love you, having you as a fan. Gotta go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, my friend, we went a lot longer than we planned, but we had an awesome episode. Yeah.
Wow. 3.5 hours. Good shit.
Yeah. Get some rest. Much love as always. A lot of people want you and I to do this next Friday. I'm not forcing you to.
I told you. Oh, I'm down, man. I still got that other half chip, too.
All right. Well, if you're up to it, then maybe we'll do that next Friday to celebrate 10,000 or something. And I got to also take care of the YouTube stuff with you tomorrow. So got paid on Friday and put the money in the account. I'm going to donate to COVID tomorrow and put the receipt online. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Much love, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we will see you, next week. Fuck it, we'll do it next week.
Yeah. Next Friday after SmackDown. Much love, brother. Talk to you soon.
See you.
Okay. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Had a blast. great debate. You know, I mean, honestly, I want everybody to realize this. Kev doesn't want to talk about this topic. And he took the high road on Twitter. Totally respect that. It's not a fun subject to talk about. We don't know the truth yet. I have my gut feeling. Mish has his gut feeling. A lot of you out there might agree with me. A lot of you out there might agree with Mish. So don't expect this to be talked about on Monday. What I'll probably just mention on Monday is, you know, the video I talked about on Friday. And I might put up a video tomorrow giving my thoughts about this video, talking about, you know, becoming a commentator and stuff, because I see it totally different. But I think one thing we could all agree, probably not the smartest thing to do to be chatting with people at 3:30 in the morning, especially when you find out that someone is 16. Definitely stupid on his part. I just can't picture somebody being that dumb. Seriously. I chat with people online. I chat with, you know, members of the Donzilla Army. And sometimes people are underage and sometimes people aren't. Don Pony, I mean, he's been one of my biggest supporters. And when he first started chatting with us, he was 15. You know, me, it was nothing. I stay away from conversation like that. Unforced error on Dream's part. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out next. You know, we'll see what's done about it. I just find it a little weird to go from that morning, we don't know if it's Dream, we don't know if he got hacked, to Dream a few hours later saying, no, that was not me, to, oh yeah, let's file the report. Report filed, yup. It just, too much that quickly. It just doesn't, you know, something just doesn't add up, but we'll see what happens. But I promise you, if it ends up that he did this, I will rip the shit out of him. It's the right thing to do. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Mish and I will be back with Breakfast Soup 2 weeks from now. This Friday, it looks like we will be doing a one-chip challenge on the Don Tony Show on YouTube. So you are welcome to join us. I will have to do some research during the week to see what I can prepare myself for when I start getting in horrible pain like that. But I'm out of here. Everyone, much love as always. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being our biggest supporters. Because I've said it once and I've said it 1,000 times. If our Patreon was not around, the non-Patreon shows probably would not be in existence right now. And that's the God honest truth. So you really help us, not just financially, but you help us emotionally, and you give us great topics of discussion. Remember, all the shows on Patreon, you, our VIPers, associate producers, you set the foundation. Everybody interacts. VIPers, non-VIPers, but you set the foundation, and then we build it into a show. It leads in different directions. And at the end, we hope everybody enjoys being a part of it, interactive, and always send your feedback. You know I welcome it. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. Much love as always. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.
It's really simple.
The man some fucking
Breakfast soup,
bitch!
This looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me. 'Cause we need a little controversy, 'cause it feels so empty without
breakfast soup.
And I said, what about
Breakfast soup.
I need to tell you something.